You are tuning into session 6.5 of the Shadows of the Ancients campaign, titled "On Grey Wings." I'm joined tonight by Lionel, Dovod, a good man and a stubborn dwarf, and we're going to see what happens to him and Ithar tonight as they make their way to the north to try and meet up with some potential allies. It's cool and brisk. The morning air almost penetrates your skin like small knives jabbing in. Your breath steams briefly as it escapes your mouth. And as you pack up camp, the remaining embers are smoldering out. The fire that you sat by last night to dry yourselves, to get a brief moment of rest, now gone, like the people you traveled with, wherever they may be. Ithar is rolling up her bedroll, and she frowns as she slips her boots back on, after finally being able to take them off after several long days of marching. It never gets any easier, that's for sure. And she looks over at you.
Dovod gives her a wry smile. Having just put his own boots on, they're not quite dry, but drier than they were. Ithar, I didn't think that I would hear you complain like that. We're making good time, and we've not heard any signs of pursuit for almost a day now. Things are looking up, I think. And he puts his thumbs out behind this belt with this rather garish boar head buckle. Think we'll make town later today, if our luck holds.
She would just turn and look at you as you say Ithar, and her eyes are just like hard now. She said, "What if I told you, Dovod, about calling me that? That might have been the name my father gave me, but I have not given it. I've given it up. It's not seemly for someone to have a girlish name and carry a blade. Do you do this to Lex, too?"
No. Lex would sooner take my head off. I know you have a better sense of humor than her. I only meant it in jest. You were acting rather womanly there, so thought the name was appropriate.
And she
and
would
he
like
kind of chuckles at his own humor.
And she would look at you and like, you see her hold the comment back, and then she decides to say it. "How about you just keep those jests to yourself then?" And she kind of like frowns against using the pun. She's not much of a joker, but she's trying.
Well, when you're done curling your hair, we can go.
And she would just give you this look again. And as you turned around to finish packing your bag, you'd feel like a clump of dirt hit you in the back of the head. And she like when you turn to look at her, she'd be like, "Must have been a bird or something. I don't know."
I was gonna say Dovod is just gonna keep on going, like with this clump of dirt still half stuck to the back of his head. Doesn't even peel it off.
And she, when you finish packing your bag, you turn and look at her. She's like looking at you. "You're no fun, you know that?" And then she turns and starts walking away. "How far is it to this Osmond fellow that you keep talking about? I've never even heard of him."
Dovod, keeping pace with her, looks up to the sky, puts his finger in his mouth, reaches down, pulls up some grass, tosses it up into the air. He says, "I don't know, maybe by the afternoon we'll get there. We're looking for the town of Greystone. It's been a while since I've been up this way, and I think we're close. I think I recognize that rock right there. Yep, and that tree. You see that tree right there? And at this point, Ithar probably knows that she's totally full of shit, and he's just making his best guess. Probably the one thing that Dovod hasn't told her in these last couple of days as they kind of fled is how naked he feels. Having tossed his maul, probably the closest thing to him, other than his living companions from the Vipers, and of course his beloved Truffle, was his maul head smasher, and he had tossed that aside, losing it in the river when they had jumped in. So he's done anything in these last couple of days to keep his mind from that, because he doesn't like feeling that way, defenseless.
Yeah, she watches you do your whole little ritual thing. You're like, oh, I recognize that rock, I recognize that tree. She's like, you're so full of shit, and just turns and keeps walking. The sun is peeking up over the edge of the trees now. It's starting to warm your bones, warm up your clothing again. And the past day of travel, it seems as if the river is so far behind you. You're kind of traveling on parallel to KingsCrown. You know that if you were to make your way there immediately, it would probably take 2-3 days from where you came out of the river. Much faster to go to Ithar's friends, her wing, and potentially gain the sky, not to mention some allies. But as you march through the day, passing massive oak trees and yews, it's still, eerily still. You can tell that almost as if the entire forest is on edge, as if something is going to happen, as if everything is holding its breath at once. And even the wind that has been such a constant companion to you over the past day is gone. Some people might see these as signs, but to you and Ithar, it's just the way things are right now. And as you finally step free from the trees onto the main path, the road that'll make your travel so much easier, you begin to head north once more towards Greystone. As you walked, Ithar would be kind of digging around in her bag, and she'd pull out a small kind of sealed, like wax paper sealed packet that managed to survive the water. That's all you guys have to eat. And all it is a bunch of dried jerky. It's getting pretty old at this point, but she rips out a chunk and hands it to you and starts chewing on some herself.
Thanks. You know what I like? And he starts chewing on it, gives her this big smile, bits of jerky just spread across his teeth. I don't know how I'll eat any other food after these fine delicacies of these last couple days.
She just like looks at the crumbs stuck in your teeth. She's like, it looks like you've been chewing on a rust monster. Perhaps you should make an attempt to clean those pearly whites, Dovod. When was the last time you cleaned them with anything?
You never know when I want a snack. And almost to punctuate that, he goes, sucks on his teeth. He goes, see, right there. And then he'll kind of stop, and he'll kind of look up and down the road, and he goes, I was right. We will be there soon. By the gods, our luck is turning.
It must have been that rock that we saw earlier. It seemed to me a very clear sign of where we were heading. I want you to roll me a survival check. Or perception, either or. Roll with advantage, too, because of your past.
Well, I rolled the same number twice. So I got a total of 8.
That's glorious. You're not very perceptive. Luckily, Ithar is. She kind of like stops for a second, like, oh, look at that. And she kind of kneels down on the ground. And when you look down, finally, like you see, you don't know how you missed it, but this massive footprint of obviously a giant It can't be older than a day, maybe. They're probably somewhere up the road.
Mm.
The Reclaimers had giants in their ranks, though.
Mm.
And she kind of starts pointing out like myriad other smaller footprints. It looks like a contingency went along this way.
Well, we should be light on our feet then. And
Undoubtedly.
he's a little embarrassed by the fact that she saw this large giant print, and he was too busy gloating over having been right that he totally missed it.
I imagine he's still smacking his lips and licking the meat out of his teeth also. Well, if they're a day, maybe two ahead of us, they might have gotten to the town first. Do you know anything about these Reclaimers, what they might want? I mean, I know that you and yours have been hunting the giants for a while now.
I think they want what most of us want. They want to make something in the world. But unfortunately, they're not so willing to work for it. They're more willing to take it from those who have earned it already.
She slowly nods. It doesn't fully make sense to me, though. They're not just the hill giants. I mean, they're rather mindless, the hill giants. They take what they want or what they need without regard to who owns it. They had stone giants among them, though, from Krieg. I don't know what they might want, what they're doing. But it doesn't bode well. Giants from Krieg all the way down here, you have to wonder what's happening north.
Well, I ain't gonna lie to you, Missy. It's probably not good. But there's nothing to be gained by worrying now. Only to put one foot in front of the other and get where we must get going. Hope for the best, I guess. Do you have any more of that jerky? Seems I have a little bit more space in my belly.
She would just look at you and, well, you've got some in your beard. Is that a flavor saver as well? You're muted. There you go.
You're onto all of my tricks. And he'll chuckle and start. And then I guess they would start walking.
Yeah, she would hand you some more jerky, though. Like, all you have to do is ask, basically. Okay. So as you guys continue to travel along the road, making your way north, you would see another road kind of comes up and joins this one, and a set of like wagon wheels kind of move along this area. Probably some sort of merchants, but they start to almost intersperse with each other, connecting. You walk for maybe another hour or two. Before you guys kind of come around a bend in the trees in the forest, and you see a wagon pull off to the side of the road. One massive figure standing next to it, kind of picking small boxes out of the back, and 4 or 5 humanoid, medium-sized figures kind of standing around 2 people who are huddled on the ground.
If it doesn't look like they've noticed us yet, Dovod would reach over and just pull Ithar aside, and he'd say, "Well, you know how we were talking about, you know how let me strike that. You know how I had mentioned, let's not worry about something. I think it's time to worry." And he would reach to his back to grab the maul that is not there, and you don't happen to have another one of those pointy little knives that you like to carry, do you? He goes, I'm kind of a little light, and he kind of just taps this light crossbow that has just kind of been hanging from his belt. You know me. If you know I like to get up close. Things get tough.
Oh, believe me, I know all too well. And she kind of like, and she's like, by the way, this isn't a pointing knife. It's at least as big as your maul is. As she like grips the great sword on her back. And she kind of like reaches back behind it and pulls out her secondary blade. And like pulls out a long sword. So will this do?
Sort of a toothpick, but I can make it work.
Well, maybe we could go back and pick up that gray stone that gave us directions here. You might be able to swing that.
Dovod stops for a second. He starts rubbing his bearded chin, and he's like, "No, I'll tell you what. Let's just use this sword, and if that doesn't work, yeah, we'll go back and get that."
She's like, well, it better work. If there's a confrontation, then we might die if it doesn't work for you. Well, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say at that point, I guess they would just kind of each look at each other, give a smile, and then step out onto the road, head and start walking cautiously toward the wagon.
Yeah. But as you guys start to walk, you just act natural, just act like we're supposed to be here, really.
Yeah, and he would just give a nod and a wink.
So as you guys kind of walk down the road, moving toward this this merchant's wagon that's kind of moved off to the side, you see that huddled in front of these five figures that are kind of standing around, these five humanoid figures, is a man and a woman and a little kid. And the woman and the little kid are kind of being held back by two of these reclamation soldiers, while the other three are basically beating up the merchant. They're like, you hear shouting as you kind of come closer. Don't you understand who we are? The reclamation will be taking these supplies, old man. You'd do better to remember who we are and that we own these parts now. The man on the ground kind of like is like shielding his face, like curled up in a ball, protecting himself. He's like, I'm sorry, sirs, it won't happen again. And they're kind of just punching him and kicking him, and one of them like is jabbing him, like not with the spear, but the butt end, like hitting him with it. But the man's growing feeble. You can tell that if this goes on much longer, this man might die. Definitely, he might die. Whether he takes a crack to the head with that butt end of the spear, or just from the sheer amount of damage they're going to do to him over the amount of time, if they don't stop, that is. The giant is kind of just like picking up crates, and he's big. He's a hill giant. He's not a stone giant, but he's picking these crates out and kind of like looking at them, and he kind of holds it down to one of them. He say, "What this say?" And one one of the guards holding the woman and the child looks at it. It's vegetables. Put it over with the rest of the food. Okay, and kind of puts it over there, and he picks up a barrel, and the process repeats. What this say? So definitely not the brightest tool in the shed, but he's big, which makes up for a lot of that.
And as they get close, I mean, obviously we're close enough that we can hear this. Dovod would just yell out. He'd say, "Hello, reclamation, eh? Notice the uniforms."
One of the soldiers that's holding kind of like the kid in place, making sure he can't run to his dad, like turns and looks over at you. Mind your own business. Move along. He kind of turns back to the scene. At that moment, the kid tries to make a break for it, and he grabs the kid's arm and clouts him across the head with one of his hands. Stand still now.
Dovod would kind of just stop, and maybe he'd place his hands on his hip and be like, "No, you can't be the reclamation. At least not the ones I know. They don't beat up old men on the side of the road for." He looks over at the, I guess, the accumulated goods that the giant had set aside. For what? Couple crates of vegetables? What's that, a cask of ale? Nah, no. Certainly you guys haven't stooped so low.
The man who's holding the child turns to speak to you again, and his face is angry. He's about to yell at you. When the one who appears to be in charge kind of like puts an hand on his shoulder. It's all right, Braddock. I'll speak with these. And he walks over to you, stopping 15 feet away. This is reclamation business. Our armies need the food and the ale. We offered to buy it. The man refused. Our prices were fair. He's lying to his teeth, by the way. The prices were definitely not fair.
Yeah, I was gonna ask the old man that. And he would look at Ithar, kind of shrug his shoulders. Well, seems like you've dealt with it then. Maybe he'll learn his lesson. Well, if you don't beat him to death today, that is.
The captain looks at you. He's learning his lesson now, as you will too if you don't move along.
And Dovod would put his hands up and he'd be like, hey, well, we don't want any trouble. Me and my missus here, we're just traveling along. Just was thinking, you beat up an old man on the side of the road. Word like that spreads. It's a lot harder to keep controlling an area if you make a lot of enemies. Just from what I've heard, I don't know.
He's about to respond when he stops and he starts to like stare at you and like look at you. Do I know you from somewhere?
Maybe. I've been told I got one of those faces, don't I, dear? And he gives Ithar a firm swat right on her rear end.
Give me a second. Okay. She succeeded on performance to not like smack you. She kind of just like she like looks at you and she's smiling but you see behind her eyes the stare of death. Like she's like, I dare you do that one more time. And then she turns and looks at him. Yes, indeed, he does have one of those faces. That must have been why I settled for him.
Nah, it was my beard. And he kind of just strokes his beard and as he does so, like bits of that jerky just fall out onto the ground, onto the road.
And the man's just disgusted as he's like looking at you. He's like, it just shakes his head. There aren't many dwarves around this part, though. That's what interests me about you. And he kind of looks back over to the group and yells to the one he called Braddock. Braddock, are there any prominent dwarven communities in these parts? Well, I mean, and Braddock kind of like looks over at him. Plenty of dwarves come over from Bardoth. We've got dwarves in our own contingency, but he doesn't look like one. And he kind of just like frowns. There are those vipers up in KingsCrown. And he kind of looks over at him. Vipers. I didn't ask about vipers. That's about dwarves. No, Dovod's vipers is what they call themselves. That's their name. They gave trouble to the giants who live around these parts sometimes. They don't like them very much, that's for sure. And he kind of turns and looks back at you. Would you know these vipers by any chance, sir?
He's kind of like stroking his beard still with his right hand. Then he puts his thumb in his belt again. And he kind of spits on the ground. Vipers. I don't associate with that lot. Bunch of troublemakers. My kind's already got hard enough time without that lot running around thinking they're heroes. Fucking fools is what I say. Isn't that right, dearie? And he gets ready to give her another swat, and he thinks better of it and just stuffs that thumb into his belt.
Yeah, no. Sorry. As you start reaching over, you see her like fingering a dagger on her belt.
Yeah. He goes, nope. Me and our missus, we're just trying to make our way north. She got kinfolk up there, I guess. Never met them. Hoping to get a loan, if you know what I mean. And he gives a wink. Start up a business. All right.
Give me deception at advantage because you're talking real smooth right now. Give me deception at advantage.
I hope I can roll another double 6.
That'd be really great.
All right, that's not so bad. Okay, that's a 15.
What's your charisma modifier? 0? Okay. So you got a 15 also, but his is +2. So he's like looking at you. What do you think would give you away?
What I would think is because Dovod is laying it on so thick. I mean, he's totally hamming up this accent that he's all of a sudden taken on. And he would, as he's kind of saying this, maybe Ithar just very ever so slightly kind of winces a bit when she's probably thinking, all right, stop, Dovod, stop. Okay, no, stop. and it's just like, and he's like just lost in his own kind of revelry as he's just spinning this tale and he's just loving it.
Okay, I want you to give me a perception check.
Okay. Eight.
So you beat his stealth or his sleight of hand, I guess, whichever it is, because you got like a 6. So you see his hand slowly moving towards the long sword at his waist.
Well, we can see that you got matters well in hand here. You ready to go, dear? Well, let's leave these men to their work. And he would just start walking along the road too. I guess he'd be walking a little bit closer to this guy because he came to meet him, right?
Yeah, he stepped back to meet you. So as you start moving towards him,
yeah,
you see his other hand. The hand as he's reaching for the sword, start reaching for your shoulder.
Okay. Dovod's gonna grab it and like pull him towards him. Like take.
You grab his hand and pull him towards you. So you're gonna grapple him.
Yeah, to take him off balance. That's what you try to do.
Okay. Oh, you're trying to trip him.
Yeah. To knock him
down. Give me a. Let's do contested strength.
Okay.
Oh man, he failed. You have to be the 5.
Oh yeah, I beat that easy.
Okay, yeah, you can do what you want to him. You grab him by you clasp his forearm as he reaches for your shoulder, and lock eyes with him. What do you want to do?
And I guess the Dovod would just look at him and be like, "Is there gonna be trouble here? Because I don't want trouble." And there would be, you'd try to put a steel in his voice as he does that, and you know, and his kind of that lighthearted demeanor he had when he was chatting just a second, talking about his missus and her family, that's totally gone. The only other thing that he would add would be, because there doesn't have to be any trouble here.
Roll me intimidation.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. 18.
Okay, you beat him. He kind of he looks at you and he sees that steel in your eyes and the ice in your voice. And he kind of tries to pull his hand free. Do you let it go?
Yep. Yeah, Dovod would let it go.
He pulls his hand free and takes 2 steps away from you. And he kind of looks back at the rest of the group who are staring at him now. They've left, the man's kind of quivering on the ground. They're not hitting him anymore. Several of them start to finger their spears.
So one of the things Dovod would do, because that was quiet, it was just loud enough for the 2 of them to hear, and Ithar probably, but not his men. And can I see any kind of insignia of rank on him?
Yeah, he's a captain. You see that, I mean, he's got basically knots tied to his shoulder.
Yeah. His
shoulders that basically just demote him, show him as a squad captain. This is probably his squad.
And Dovod would say, "Why, thank you, Captain. I almost missed that gopher hole, and I probably would have twisted my ankle. Thanks for pointing that out to me."
So I'm not going to give you. I'm not going to make him a deception check. I'm just going to see if he decides to go with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Watch your step now. These roads are traveled very often, and there are plenty of potholes and divots that you could fall into. Wouldn't want to find gentlemen like yourself to get hurt. He kind of takes a hasty step away.
And as Dovod and Ithar are walking away, he would stop and he'd turn around and say, "Oh yeah, look out for those nasty vipers. If you see any of them, make sure to kill them. Troublemakers, I tell you." And then we would keep walking. We have a more important pressing matter right now. I guess Dovod's going to hope that they're not going to kill this poor family.
Yeah, they all kind of just watch you go. Even the giant has stopped unloading the cart and he's like staring at you. The little kid is like staring like directly at you, like he's interested in like what that all was. He doesn't know what happened or who you are, but for whatever reason, in his mind, you were able to make them stop beating up his daddy. So he's kind of like confused but interested in what you did as well, and he's just staring at you as you walk away. But nobody tries to stop you if you just go.
Yeah, unless Ithar says something different, Dovod is going to keep going. It doesn't sit well with him. But if they really have a more pressing mission right now, he knows a storm is coming, and if Ithar and if he and Ithar can't get to their gray wings, then it's not going to matter. This one family's not going to matter. Everything's going to go to shit.
Okay, so you walk away. And as you turn the next corner, kind of losing sight of them, moving around the bend, you hear the muffled thumps and grunts of pain begin once again. So Ithar kind of looks at you. The missus?
Yeah, I thought that was kind of good myself. You know?
She looks at you. You're such a bastard. And keeps walking.
What? What? And he just stands there for a second doing one of these things. What? It could happen. And then he would kind of trot off after. It could happen.
She just looks at you and she says, "For all of your redeeming qualities, you have quite a few of irredeemable ones as well, my friend. But maybe if things had went differently in our lives, it could have happened." And she just keeps walking.
Yeah, and Dovod tries not to think of the look on that family as they walked by. But he knows that those are faces that'll probably haunt him.
Does the VOD show when he's like discomforted like this? Is there like a way that Ithar could read him?
I would imagine Ithar and Dovod have spent so much time together that she would read him like a book more often than not.
Yeah, she would look at you and kind of like, I rolled a perception check, so she got like a 17. So she looks over at you, and I'm almost imagined that like when he is like worried about something or like something's bothering him, he begins to like chew on his beard or something. Like the little strands that kind of maybe what? Sorry, go ahead.
Probably what he does is that he's that big belt buckle he has.
Starts to fidget with it.
Yeah, he fiddles with it. He talks a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he doesn't quite seem as because he usually appears confident even in the face of overwhelming odds and adversity. He usually will at least put on a facade of confidence. But when something is unsettling to him, like if it's not a crisis situation, like when he threw that farmer off of his boar, unsettling, but it's in a crisis, so he's gonna have that game face on. But this was different,
Yeah.
So yeah, he would probably make those jokes. He would probably prattle on. That's probably the best way to say it. Prattle.
Yeah, I imagine that you'd be like talking about your performance, how good it was or something. And she would just look at you, say, Dovod, it's okay. I checked the back of the car. There are only a few crates left. I assume they'll leave once they have everything. If not, what could we honestly have done?
He nods his head. You're right. For what it's worth. Then he would kind of look at her as they're kind of walking along, and he'd say, but I'm going to see that boy's face in my dreams. I just know it.
I'd be worried if you didn't. I feel like people, when I was in the Convokers, people fixated so often on being a hero that they sacrificed themselves and the people that they could have saved if they'd just been smarter. Then again, the Convokers, well, you've heard my reasons for why I left. But there's too much talk and not enough action with them. I wish more Convokers had the heart to leave, to strike out on their own and, well, pursue some sense of morality. But you know what they say, comfort is peril. And the Convokers are comfortable nowadays.
Yeah, Dovod would just nod in agreement. He thinks about saying something, but thinks better of it. And he just says, I didn't mean to swat your ass that hard. And he kind of chuckles a bit. As he tries to, he just wants to change the subject because it got so serious.
Yeah.
And he was trying to lighten the mood.
Yeah. And she looks at you, she's like, I didn't mean to swat you that hard. You're such a liar. I can tell when you lie, Dovod. You bite your lower lip. And you look away. You don't look me right in the eye when you lie to me.
And he would act like he's all innocent, and then he would but he would be biting his bottom lip at the time, and then he'd be like, I do not. And
she laughs.
And then keep walking, I guess.
Yeah, you guys continue along the path, and eventually you guys kind of step out of the trees onto this big open plain. This is how you know you're about to leave Talmoor and go into Iridos, is because Iridos is just this flat, huge plains, rolling hills, tall grass, very much so like prairie-esque. And as you kind of leave Talmoor, that wet ground, the muddy soil, and those trees, they kind of fall away behind you, and you see just beyond Greystone, this big kind of no, not necessarily towering, but it's large for a town. Does that make sense? Not quite a city, but it's a town. They have kind of a wooden and stone palisades that stand up to about 15 feet tall. The land kind of around here, because you're not quite to Iridos yet, is still kind of fetid and swampy. The ground kind of just sticks to your boots, almost if you're walking through a marsh, but not too bad. So for the purposes of outside of the city, it is difficult terrain. But as you kind of step out of this and you see the city there, the town, you see, it's the 50-foot palisade. You see the buildings just beyond the walls. But I want you to roll me a perception check to catch the thing that's different about it now.
16.
Yeah, whereas before this used to fly the colors of Talmoor, kind of that burgundy and gray. Now the flags, the colors that kind of hang from the towers at the gates and they kind of wave in the wind are silver and white. and instead of the Talmoor water bear on its kind of the center of it, it's a fist gripping within the fist a stalk of wheat, an arrow, and a scepter. And this insignia was on the reclamation soldiers' uniforms when you went past them.
Dovod would point that out to Ithar. He'd shake his head and he'd be like, I was kind of hoping that, well, I was just kind of hoping. And he would just kind of shake his head. Well, I hope Osmond is still there. Otherwise, we've wasted the trip.
If he's as cunning as you say he is, I'm sure that he will be. But what surprises me, I guess I shouldn't be surprised, is that Talmoor still hasn't done anything about these reclamation soldiers. They've never been the most united, that's for sure. After the Third Revolution, they never been the same. The Bog Queen sat inside of her castle at Whitespire, and, well, like I said, comfort is peril. They live so far away from the Talmoor Guard that it just doesn't really surprise me that they've already fallen. I'm sure Ravenport's the same. I wonder how Bardoff and Iridos are. I don't think the Iridossi would stand for this. And they've got more than one stick up their ass, that's for sure. But I don't know.
Who's saying that they even took it? Maybe it was given to them. I don't even know who's would it be a mayor?
Yeah, it would be like a mayor.
Yeah. I don't even know who the mayor is. Maybe he handed it to the reclamation. Maybe he has no stomach for a fight. And then when he says that, Dovod would kind of squint and he'd look and look for any signs on the walls or anything that there was any type of siege or anything upon the town.
No, the walls are spotless.
And he just silently nods his head as he sees that, probably knowing that Ithar probably sees it too. That more likely than not, this town was freely given, or if not freely given, took very little coaxing for them to.
Yeah, she would nod at you. As you kind of say this, I wonder if they went down without a fight. And she kind of scans the walls too, as you do at the same time. Can hardly blame them for giving up, though. Those palisades are only 15 feet tall. A giant could reach over easily. But I don't know. I wonder what happened to the guardsmen, though. I mean, even the guards are Talmoor guards. Reclamation officers, soldiers.
Probably sent them on their way. The ones that didn't fight, that is, I guess. Imagine reclamation could be pretty ruthless. Imagine any man that looked like he was going to put up a fight or be a problem. I'm sure they dealt with. The smarter ones probably went back to their families. But I don't know. We got to find Osmond. We got to get our asses out of there as quickly as we can.
Agreed. Well, how about this time we're traveling mercenaries instead of Mrs. and Mr.? How does that sound to you, Mr.?
Kind of liked my story better, but guess we could do that. We could give it a shot.
She just shakes her head as you say, I like my story better. You would like your story better. Now, come on, let's go. If they see us just standing here at the edge of the trees, they're going to get suspicious.
Yeah. He would definitely start walking along with Ithar.
Yeah, so you two approach the city. You see that there's kind of like a short line of people getting in. They kind of stop each one and like inspect them, like look at them and like check their packs and stuff. So you see Ithar kind of fiddle with something on her finger, and you see her pull off her ring, her dark convoker ring, the symbol of the Grey Wings, and she kind of reaches up to her hair, and she has kind of like a braid, for simplicity's sake, to make it so like the hair can't get in the way. And she kind of slides it onto the braid and like ties it in, so it just looks like a normal, like another piece of metal on the braid itself. If you've got any symbols on you, I suggest you do the same.
Um, all Dovod wears is his boots, his trousers, a vest, and his belt. He taps the bronze of his belt and he says, "I've only got this. If I take that off, I'll be losing my trousers." And he gives her a wink, and he said, then he says, "And I'll tell you something right now. That's going to draw a lot more attention than this beer buckle."
And she just looks at you. Yes, please keep them on. Spare the world that sight.
And as the line kind of moves forward a little bit, he'll look at her and he'll say, "It's not too late for us to change our plan. Go with my story. Just saying."
And she looks at you and she says, "Do you want to know something I've noticed about you, Dovod? When you fixate on something, you really fixate on something. Like, really."
He kind of chuckles and he says, "How do you think I got so successful with the Vipers? Gotta set your goals."
I thought it was just dumb luck. I mean, you almost died at KingsCrown, didn't you? That's why you took it as your base.
That was slightly exaggerated. I'm sure I would have been fine. He's totally lying.
Yeah. So the way I hear, you took the full brunt of a thrown boulder.
It didn't look so big when it had it in its hand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you were wondering as it got closer what was happening, and then it hit you. Yes.
Yeah, one might say that, and then we're kind of moving forward on the line. One might say that I realized the error of my judgment a moment too late.
And now she's kind of on a roll. She's like, if only you'd been bolder.
There's like a pause as he misses it at first, and then like they take another step forward, and it's like silence, and then he starts laughing, like a deep belly laugh.
Yeah, the people in front of you kind of like turn and look at you, and they're like, just shake their head in disgust and just look back. So you're 3 people away from the gate. Well, 3 groups. They kind of wave the next one through, so you're just 2 away. And then the next one passes into the city. And then now you're close enough you can hear them talking. And they're kind of digging through this man's bag. He looks like some sort of traveling scribe or something. And they kind of like start like pulling stuff out, like an ink pot, and they pull out some extra clothing and stuff. And they pull out a small coin purse and they look at it. Were you trying to not pay the tax there, sir? It's dangerous out here. It's safer to enter the city. That's why there's a tax. The scribe like kind of fidgets. And the guard kind of picks up the bag. Since you didn't pay the tax or tried to hide your money from us, we'll just have to take all of this, it seems. It kind of jingles the bag, and you can hear lots of coins shaking in there. And he kind of slides it inside of his vest. The scribe's like, well, I need money. I can't survive without that. Shouldn't have tried to lie to us then, sir. Come on in. Welcome to Greystone. And at this point, the scribe kind of starts to beg. Are you just watching, or do you say anything? What do you do?
Dovod would say, come on, move it up. I've been standing in this line too long. I want to get in there, drink some ale." Sorry about that.
Yeah, the soldier kind of like looks at you. You heard the dwarf. Move along. This is reclamation money now. And the scribe just kind of like his shoulders slump, and he picks up the bag, and he slides, the clothing back in, and the ink pot and quills, and some of the loose parchment, and he kind of shuts it and starts to step past him, and the guard kind of stops him. The ring too. The scribe just looks at him. But this ring, the ring too. And the scribe just kind of just slowly pulls this simple silver ring off of his hand and drops into the guard's outstretched palm, and then walks into the city. You guys step up, and they like look you over. Packs, please. It's a lot easier if you just take them off and hand it to them yourself.
Yeah, Dovod doesn't even have a pack. All he has is the longsword, a shield, that crossbow with 15 bolts, and a small coin purse.
Yeah, so he'd hold his hand out to you. Entrance into the city is 2 gold pieces.
2 gold pieces.
That's like
fool there didn't pay that. And he kind of takes his purse and he jingles it out, and there's not many coins in there. Ching, ching, ching. 2 gold coins drop and a few silver. He picks out the gold and he hands it to the guard.
Yeah, and the guard takes the 2 gold pieces and kind of, puts them away inside of this coin purse. You know that like 2 gold is, it might not seem like much to you, but like, to the average farmer, like that's like a year's worth of supplies and food and stuff. Like that's like a lot of money to them, but to you guys, adventure is like, eh. So Ithar, she takes off her pack, and the guard kind of goes through it, and he's pulling out clothes and stuff and like setting them on the ground. And he finds a small vial inside the bag. What's this? Medicine. And he kind of like uncorks it and smells it. Doesn't smell like medicine. Natural remedy. My mother makes it. And he kind of looks down at it and looks back at her. What's it made of? Some herbs, brackish water stirred and heated over time. She says, no, I surely don't. And he kind of like corks it back and drops it back in the pack. All right, stretch out your arms. We have to pat you down. Make sure you're not carrying anything in that you shouldn't. Does Dovod comply?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So they pat him down. Nothing. You see the one guard takes his time with Ithar. And you see it's taking every ounce of her willpower not to stab him right now. But eventually they kind of close the pack back up, and he kind of holds out his hand. 2 gold. And she kind of pours some money into her hand, like 5 gold pieces and a couple silver. And he takes it all. And he looks at her. That's for trying to lie to me about the medicine. I don't know what it is, but it's not medicine, that's for sure. And they kind of, all right, you can go in.
So Dovod would help Ithar pack her belongings back into her pack, and I guess we would walk into the town. When we get out of earshot of the guards, Dovod would say to her, well, they're a lively bunch, aren't they?
To the 9 hells with them.
Yeah, I can see it on your face.
Yeah, her face is like glowering now. Like, you know that if it wouldn't endanger the mission, she would turn around right now and cut the man in 2 with her greatsword. but she knows how important it is to lay low in here. So she took it.
Yeah. Better we find Osmond as quickly as we can and put this place to our backs.
Any ideas where he might be?
Well, last I heard, he was either giving lessons to local nobles, or was working in some library or some place of learning.
Yeah, she like looks at you. Library might be safer. If the nobles had any sense, they would have fled the city the moment the army appeared. Where's this library? Do you know?
Gosh, it's been so long since I've been here. And honestly, my mind wasn't too clear. It's kind of addled with a little bit of drink. But could probably ask.
All right, very well. And she'd kind of look around to see she could find somebody who might know the city or be able to tell them where to go, etc. Eventually, she finds a this old scribe. She finds a scribe, and she approaches him. And you realize it's the same guy from earlier, and he's kind of just like sitting on this kind of a little like not a parapet, like a raised kind of little stone wall around a garden. He's kind of sitting there, just like has his head in his hands, just shaking his head. Ithar kind of looks at him. Excuse me. You look up. What is it? You kind of look back and forth between the two of you.
My friend and I here, we're looking for the library. The name of it escapes me right now, but we have a friend that I think he works there. You look like a learned man. Figured you would know where it is.
Are you talking about the Athenaeum?
Yeah, that's it. If you could take us there, we could pay you.
And you see his like eyes are kind of widen. Yes, I can lead you there. I know where it is. He kind of stand to his feet and extend a hand towards you.
Dovod would kind of look at the hand.
I'm sorry. My name's Ivan. Pleased to meet you.
Oh, I'm Derek. And he grabs his hands and shakes it.
Please follow me. I can lead you there. And he starts to walk down the street.
Yeah, we would follow him.
So he leads you kind of down this main kind of road. It kind of passes this like where all the shops are. They're kind of gathered on this street. You guys go past like a blacksmith, and there's like a tannery, and you see like a bookbinder and like a scribe's shop where you'd get like stuff written out for you. So you're passing all these different places, a fletchery, etc. And eventually he kind of turns at like a kind of a narrower street that starts heading up a hill. And you see at the very top of the hill, kind of like a round building with kind of these pillars interspersed every now and then. So it kind of looks like almost not kind of like a coliseum, but not quite like a little bit more library-ish. But there are basically doors all the way around the circular building that you can go through into the center. Oh, here it is, the Athenaeum.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And Dovod would reach out underneath. He would pull his belt buckle forward, and he'd reach down like into his trousers, and he'd pull out where he really keeps his coins, and he would pour 5 gold coins out into his palm, and he'd say, "I didn't treat you very right there at the gate, but if I could give you some advice, you gain nothing by trying to argue with men like that. You're lucky that all you lost was your coin." And he would hand him the coin.
And he'd take the 5 gold from you, and he'd be awestruck. I mean, this is like maybe a year and a half salary for a scribe. And he kind of like looks down at it and just like looks back up at you. I don't know how to thank you. And he kind of just like take the money from your hand and like hold it, like clutching his fist. And this guy's a little bit awkward, so he gets down on a knee and like hugs you.
Dovod would like grab both of his shoulders and push him away and like lift him up, and he'd say, "Listen to me. If you don't stop acting like a fool, I'm gonna hit you so hard, and I'm gonna take that money back. Me and my friend here, we really appreciate what you did, but we don't want we don't want any eyes seeing us, if you know what I mean. So take your money. Thank you very much. Get lost."
He kind of stand back to his feet. I'm sorry. Thank you. I at least I can do it. And he kind of like reaches into his pocket and pulls out a paper and hands it to you. I only have a few of these left to give, but it's a note of recommendation for the Athenaeum. I work there. It'll get you access to whatever you need, to however you need to see. Thank you. Really, thank you. And he kind of turns and starts to walk away, looks back one more time, and then walks the rest of the way.
Yeah, when he turns to look back, Dovod, having that slip of paper, would do one of these things, give him a wink, and then he would turn towards Ithar and say, "Well, we're gonna go in." And he's just about to say "love," and he catches himself and he goes, "Ready to go in, Ithar?" And he'll walk towards the closest set of doors.
And she catches the look and she's like, "Were you about to call me Lexi?"
No, 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 no.
She's like, "I sure hope not, because no girl likes to have her name forgotten."
Right, right. You don't look anything alike. And he would just take a couple of brisk steps forward.
And she starts to follow you, and she says quietly enough that only you can hear, "The hug was sweet, though. It really looked like you two bonded."
Just shut up. And he would walk into the library.
Yeah, you hear her muffled laughs behind you as you open the door and step into the Athenaeum. And that is where we'll take a quick 10-minute break. So go ahead, go to the bathroom, grab a drink, do what you need to, and we'll be back soon in 10 minutes.
All right, great. Thanks.
Stellar job, by the way, sir.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Dude, you're doing
Making our way,
fantastic, man.
seeing Dovod's softer side.
Mm-hmm. And he's
Of
felt Ithar's softer side.
yes, he has. I don't know if I don't know how soft it would be, but
Yeah. Well, it's up for him to decide, I guess.
of course he would deny it if anyone were to say anything to those other folks that are on their way to what is it, King's Home?
KingsCrown. All right. So let's go ahead and we can do a quick plug. Go ahead and plug your channel, plug your character, and go ahead and get started after that.
Cool. Well, I'm Lionel. I am playing Dovod, Craghelm, who is the leader of Dovod's Vipers, which is basically a mercenary group that does all kinds of cool stuff for a little bit of coin. And his most recent mission didn't go so well, so he's trying to fix what's broken. And I'm not gonna plug anything. I'm just gonna let's just do some playing. This is fun.
Okay, cool. I mean, obviously, if you're tuning into my channel, you know who I am. It's the first time tonight that I actually have to be super duper involved in the RP, so I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying playing Ithar. Pretty hands-on right now. I mean, as we said earlier, it seemed that Dovod was getting a bit hands-on too, but that's beside the point. No, so yeah, so I mean, I'll plug him for him. Go check out Two Guys T and D&D. They're awesome, and that is all. Let's go ahead and get started. So as you step through the doors into the Athenaeum, the first thing that greets you is kind of a large, spacious area with row upon row of books. For where you can see, you see that there are at least 3 levels above you, 3 floors. And then in the center, there appears to be a circling staircase that goes down as well. As you step into the room, you are just met with the sheer silence of the place. People walk past you, they don't say anything. If they do, it's in a whisper. And all of them are wearing kind of these navy blue and white kind of robes, the robes of the scholars who work here. They kind of look at you as you enter, and several of them kind of like whisper to each other, passing you guys going in. Eventually, one of them approaches you. May I be of some assistance to you, sir and ma'am?
Dovod would just shove the slip of paper that was given to him by the scholar outside. Was it Ivan?
Ivan, yeah.
Yeah, Ivan. And he just kind of hands it up because this place is unsettling to him. It's so quiet. It's like he feels like he's walked into a tomb.
Yeah, it almost is like, I mean, super clean floors, like windows up above, letting in a little bit of light, but for the most part, it's pretty like sequestered in here and separated. I don't know if you've ever been to New York, but like whenever you step into one of the buildings off the street and it just goes quiet all of a sudden, it's like that. So she kind of the scribe kind of looks at the paper. Ivan, he gave you this paper. Then what do you need help with? Is there a topic of research? Is there somebody, a master scholar you'd prefer to meet with? What is it?
Yeah, I'm looking for a friend of mine. And he says that, and he doesn't. He thinks that he's whispering, but his voice, and for Dovod, it is a whisper. But then he kind of like cringes a bit as he goes, "Sorry. I'm not used to something so quiet."
The scribe's like wincing and smiling and nodding.
My friend and I are looking for an acquaintance of ours, Osmond. Last I knew, he worked here.
Yes, Osmond does work here.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yes, I can take you to him. He's down in the lower levels right now. Is that all right? Neither of you have claustrophobia or anything, no?
He kind of smirks. He says, I'm a dwarf.
Oh, yes, I forgot. You and the rest of the Stone Rift dwarves live in that crack in the ground. Of course, yes. Please come with me. And she starts to lead you towards this like center staircase that just goes down into the earth. The first thing you're struck with as you move down is just like if you looked over the edge of the railing down, you can't see the floor. Like that's how far this shaft goes down into the ground. All you can see is just the circling staircase going down and down and down and getting smaller and smaller until it ends in like a point almost. And as you kind of make your way down these stairs, these kind of grafted metal stairs, eventually you arrive at the bottom, and I imagine maybe like kind of start to walk towards one of the doors, like the one she's facing. And no, we're not done going down yet. And she kind of walks over to kind of like an open hallway, and steps past into another room. And this room has like it's like kind of like an opalescent crystal pane of glass almost. And she steps onto it, and you can see just like the darkness beneath you, just like straight shot down. It looks flimsy, but it seems to hold her fine. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Dovod would kind of cock an eyebrow and be like, you can't be serious. And then he would look at Ithar. She can't be serious.
I think she's serious.
Damn. And he would take a very ginger step onto it. Kind of like, like when you see someone trying to test ice or something, and he kind of does that. And then he kind of puts his other foot on. And he's like,
when you put your first foot on, Ithar pushes you from behind and then grabs you like she saved you. So, oh, Dovod, careful.
It's not funny. Not funny at all. And he's still whispering this whole time.
The scribe isn't amused, by the way. She's just like staring at you too.
My friend has a rather off sense of humor. Don't you, Ithar?
She nods. I'm very off.
Shall we go?
She just walks on.
Dovod has no idea what is in store for him right now.
So he steps on?
Yeah.
Okay. She nods to you and steps onto like one of there's like a patch that's a different color. And she walks over to that patch and stands on it. And she closes her eyes and the patch lights up beneath her. And then with a this pane of like crystalline glass starts to descend.
That's a neat trick. And he would just kind of look around is it a slow descent?
Yeah, it's a fairly slow descent. Just kind of like it's like kind of like a so she kind of like looks at you and maybe like kind of sees like kind of your confusion, like your interest. It's an artifact from Old Kazarin. They built the Arthenaeum. We have just recently discovered this lower area. They call them oh my goodness, I forgot the name that I had for it. Okay. They call them Excel lifts, and if one is trained in using them, you can make the move up and down. A magical lift of some sort. It's quite interesting. It is indeed. They knew a lot of things that we didn't. We suspect that its power very similar to the Soul Stones, but nothing's been confirmed yet.
Now, if memory serves me correctly, they have similar things in Stone Rift, right? For their
they use water for their lifts. Yeah, water falls on like a wheel and rotates it.
That's what Dovod would say. That just wanting to make some small talk, he'd say, "In Stone Rift, we use water for ours."
Indeed, it still surprises me that you haven't learned how to use the bolts yet that you harvest to move your elevators, but regardless, it is still fascinating technology. Um, yeah, you see, like, and then I feel like there's like this awkward silence
Very
for a little
quickly,
while.
very quickly, the scholar would get, okay, this guy's really not too interested in this.
Yeah. Okay. Eventually, the lift kind of stops. Master Scholar Osmond is on this floor. You should be able to find him if you go down that hall. You'll enter into a repository of books, of old scrolls and such. He should be in there.
Thank you very much.
Oh, if you need the lift, he knows how to work it. He should be able to bring you back up. Right there, that panel on the wall, you'd see kind of like a glass panel. It kind of looks very similar to this. All you need to do is place your hand on that, and it'll come down to your floor.
And Dovod doesn't say anything. He just nods, looks at the panel, looks at the scribe, nods.
Well, I'll be on my way then. And she kind of like doesn't know quite what to say anymore, just presses down on the pedal and starts to move up. So yeah, you're left standing in almost darkness. It's not quite dark. I mean, they don't have any open flames down here. Instead, it seems as if like in these kind of sconces in the wall, they're cultivating these bioluminescent mushrooms. So they kind of let out this like illusory blue glow, so you can see where you're going.
Okay. Dovod would lead the way for Ithar because he would be able to see better than she. And yeah, he would follow the directions of the scholar to the room where he's hoping to find Dovod. I mean, Osmond, not find himself.
Roll me a perception check.
Okay.
He's looking to find himself. This is a spiritual quest.
Yeah, I got 11.
Okay. Echoing off the walls to you, you hear a voice. Osmond's voice. Talking with somebody. Yes, I'm aware the glass pool has fallen, and yes, I'm aware that whatever they were researching there has fallen into the reclamation hands. Be that as it may, we cannot stop trying to figure out what it was that they discovered. It is obviously important if they sent their lead professor with a group of young Convokers to run away. Last I heard, they were somewhere on the path towards KingsCrown. And you hear the other voice talk back to him. What is it that they carry? Do you know? No, I do not know. Be as good as my spy network may be, I do not know. I have not confirmed anything. But the way I hear it, from some people who were waiting at the gate and saw Dovod's here, he should be here soon. The only thing I can take from that is that he has something he needs to ask me or a favor he has to turn in. It's the only reason we ever see each other. Very well. The voice responds. Remember, this meeting didn't happen, Osmond. I am aware, I know. Now move along, leave. You hear the sound of footsteps receding into a distant hallway.
Yeah, I think just instinctively, Dovod would kind of step into the shadows, not knowing where this person that's leaving was going. So once he hears the retreating footsteps, he would kind of look at Ithar, kind of trying to gauge whether or not she heard that conversation too.
Yeah, she heard the conversation. She doesn't feel entirely perturbed by it, or at least she doesn't show that. But she does have kind of like a look of interest on her face. Like, what was that all about, basically?
Yeah. Dovod would give a slight nod, and there'd be a little bit of an edge of a growl to his voice, and he'd say, I feel the same way. Think we better find out what that's all about. But first, you'll see my friend. And he would walk, and so is he behind a door?
Yeah, it's kind of like a half cracked door, as if whoever came in here forgot to close it behind them completely.
Yeah, which was to our benefit because we were able to hear what they were saying. Um, so Dovod would walk up to this door quietly, you know, um, and and he would push the door open.
Yeah, the door creaks on rusty hinges as it kind of swings inward, and you see kind of like several long tables covered with varying scraps of scrolls and old worn books. And sitting at a bench is Osmond, kind of leaning over one of these scrolls, and he looks up as the door opens. Dovod, welcome. I was told that you'd be arriving in the city shortly.
Well, I'm not surprised by that. You seem to know everything before even the person that involves even knows. And he laugh, he chuckles a bit, and he would walk in the room. I believe you know Ithar here.
He nods. We've had the opportunity to make acquaintance once or twice, but nothing as close as your past escapades together.
So we're not gonna bandy any words here. I'm calling in a marker. You owe me. You're gonna pay. And the whole time he's saying this, he's walking closer to Osmond.
I see. You're calling in past favors. Is that it? I
Yep.
assumed that you'd be on your way here at some point, seeing as KingsCrown is surrounded as it is at the moment. The siege has begun. The Reclamation are making quite the name for themselves in these parts.
Something like that. Of course, it wouldn't be quite so easy if people had a backbone and stood up to them.
Hmm. I assume you're talking about Mayor Alvarin and him turning over the town with no fight.
Yeah.
He never, he wasn't one for conflict, as I'm sure you're aware.
Where's he now?
Last I heard, he was in the prison cells, in the dungeon. Just because he surrendered didn't mean they had to treat him well.
Hey, the man's a fool. He should have known better. Better he put up a fight.
The way I hear it, one of his counselors told him it would be better to just surrender. Most people take to counsel that they enjoy rather than the one that's actually wise.
Well, time is not my ally right now, Osmond.
The way I hear, you don't have many allies right now, Dovod.
I have a few, and that's why I'm here. Need your help to find them.
By them, I'm assuming you mean the Silver Rose and the Black Brigade.
Wow, you are well informed.
It's my job to be well informed, Dovod. But before I forget, it's always darkest on a moonless night.
Well, one can always see by the stars.
At least you didn't forget that bit of formality, though we should have started with that. You're supposed to know that the person who enters greets with the saying.
I don't have time for that bullshit.
Fair enough. You just said you don't have time. The time is money to you. Well, information is money to me. The way I hear it, you were on a job recently, yes? Couple initiates out of Ravenport. Is that correct?
Dovod takes the longsword given him by Ithar and puts it on the table. He takes his shield, it slings it off of his shoulder and hangs it on the back of one of these chairs, and he jumps into he gets kind of sits in the chair, puts his feet up, purposely taking time. And he goes, "What does that have to do with why I'm here?"
Well, Dovod, you're calling in favors, but I can only assume that your favors that you're calling in are to help at KingsCrown. Now, I'm not saying we can't, but you do realize that if we join you there, we're putting ourselves on the bad side of a war. Now, I will help you, but I need something else to sweeten the deal.
His feet come off the table, and he leans in close to Osmond. He says, "Sweeten the deal? Do I have to remind you what I've done for you, Osmond?" He puts up his hands and he goes, "These are the hands that got dirty while yours stayed clean." And he would look over his shoulder at Ithar, because even Ithar doesn't know some of the things that that Dovod has done for Osmond. What do you think you'd be? Folks knew.
You have a fair point, but I'm willing to trade information for information.
All right, let's hear it. And what's Ithar doing while
She's just watching.
just standing there?
You know she doesn't like Osmond, like at all.
Yeah, she shouldn't.
She has no taste for him. She's definitely just as straightforward as you are. Now, information. Let's see. What I want to know is whether those people are at KingsCrown, if they were with you, and what if they had a certain professor with them named Emran Gray. Now, what I have to offer you is information about what happened to the Silver Rose.
Let me see. Emran Gray?
Yes,
Emran Gray. Ithar, Emran Gray. Name sound familiar to you? Nope. Wasn't anybody I was helping. And he gives him a wink.
I see you want me to share my information first. Very well. Last I heard it, the Silver Rose got on the bad side of the reclamation. They are scattered. Their hold, up along the crags of Krieg, is gone. Nobody knows where they went or or who has died or what's happened. But I have it on good note that a figure matching the description of your Errol was seen in Whitespire. Sanda was not with him, though.
Sandar wasn't with him?
No.
Those two are always together.
Well, your guess is as good as mine.
Dovod would start chewing on his bottom lip, and then he would catch himself and he would stop, and he'd shoot this sour look at Ithar. And do you know if she's still alive?
With things the way they are nowadays, no one can tell. I couldn't tell. Might be able to find out. I'd have to dedicate some time and some of my webbing to Whitespire to gather the information you'd want. I could maybe have it in several days. But
now, where is Whitespire in? I'm sorry. Where is Whitespire in connection to Greystone?
Whitespire is the capital of Talmoor. So where Greystone kind of borders, kind of like northeastern Talmoor and Iridos, kind of almost near the Ravenstorm Highlands. Whitespire is beyond KingsCrown, so to the west, and almost in Bardoth. So it's like kind of near Bardoth, like almost at that corner where Bardoth, Iridos, and Talmoor meet.
Hold on a second. So Dovod would ask Osman, so what's the climate like in Whitespire?
Well, as I'm sure you're aware, the Bog Queen hasn't made any moves yet to try and stop the invasion of Talmoor. The way I hear it, Bardoth is just as bad right now. The Reclamation has been making moves there. It seems that they're moving to take over the north at the moment, Verglass and everything north of the Throat. As for the way it is in Whitespire, it's conflicted, to say the least. People there are afraid. Some wish to fight, some wish to submit. They have an interesting figure leading the Reclamation, the way I hear it.
So, tell me, who is it?
Kind of like looks at you and starts to lean forward. Have you... I'm sure you're aware of the Stone Giants of Krieg, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, what do you know about their relationship to the Convocation? You can roll me a history check.
Okay, hold on. That is a straight 13.
So what you do know about the Stone Giants of Krieg and the relationship to, the Convocation is that they a long time ago they signed a treaty with them that was definitely not on the best terms for the Stone Giants. You don't really know much besides that. Simply that there was a treaty signed between the two of them after a long conflict.
Well, I know those gilded flyboys shafted the stone giants. I know that. That's about it.
Well, that doesn't even begin to describe the deal that they cut underneath them. Clauses, subclauses, things that they shouldn't have, things that the Giants should have consulted other people with before they signed. Well, the Stone Giants, they have a group of leaders. The old Stones. Old members of the tribe who've been around for quite some time. Kind of a hierarchy, if you will. And at their head is a man, well, a Stone Giant, named Lothos. Very old, powerful. It's been around quite some time. It's said that his connection to the earth is stronger than even those of the dwarves of Stone Rift. His ability to command it and shape it, along with the storms. Well, the way I hear it, he leads the Reclamation. He's looking to take back the things that the Convokers promised him and never fulfilled. The way I hear it, Krieg, Snarholm, the Anvils, Karn, Stonebreaker Glacier, all of it was supposed to be theirs. And still, all they have is Krieg. And even less than that now, as parts of their northern territory was taken from them to build a Convoker base.
So why all this then? Why not just take it to the Convokers?
Well, tell me, would you trust a group of people who shafted you multiple times?
I never trusted him anyways. And he would kind of give a look to Ithar, and then back to Osman. Listen, I'm just thinking about the rest of us. We're all caught in the middle.
Well,
Convokers, and he spits on the floor.
they have been a source of hope and a source of trouble for quite some time now. The corruptor was their doing. Arendelle Dawnbringer. I can't believe that of all of them, their shining knight would fall the furthest. But this is just another problem of the Convokers. They don't keep promises. They're changed. Now, there's my piece of information for you. Now tell me of this Emerald Grey and what he carries.
I told you. Now no Emerald Grey.
Ithar would kind of like look at you. He hasn't been with us for very long. There is an Emran. But why are you interested in what he carries? He looks at her. Ideal information, dear. Of course, it's interesting to me to know that a certain professor of great renown is carrying with him something that the Commandant Martine gave him to bring to Viator. Who would not be interested in that? She slowly nods. Well, I don't know what's in the parcel either. It's a small envelope. There is something heavier in there, and I think a letter as well. But I haven't seen it. He hasn't shown it to anybody. Osmond nods. All right, that's all I wanted to know. Do you have any more questions?
Yeah. Where's the Black Brigade now? Where are they selling themselves?
Last I heard, they were working down in Korhal, but they made their way north as of late, or they were making their way north. If their travel pace is the same as when they left Korhal, they should be in Bardoth by now. Easily, I could get a raven to them if you were to request their aid. I don't know, though. Lex is different.
What do you mean? What do you mean different?
Their campaign down in Korhal didn't quite go the way they were planning for it to go. The person that hired them on didn't tell them everything that he should have. Let's just say they got themselves in a little bit deeper than they were able to get themselves out of. The way I hear it, the Black Brigade used to be 7 companies, each 100 men. They're down to 3. Lex was smart enough to hold hers back in that last battle. It was a massacre.
The whole time that Osmond is saying that, Dovod is just shaking his head. People are always so quick to throw away the lives of others. I want you to get a raven to her. I'll write a letter.
He nods. I can do that, and it might be to your best benefit the way I hear KingsCrown being set up, 2 armies surrounding it on either side, each about 700 men. But if there's one thing you can be count your lucky stars for, the last commander died. She was elected as the commander now. She commands all 3 companies. She's no longer just a lieutenant. If she agrees to help you, she's bringing 300 men to bear.
Dovod nods. She'll help. Black Brigade will be better now with her in the lead. The last commander was a fool. I told her that, but she wouldn't listen. I told her to come to the Vipers. She heard damn pride and honor. Didn't sit well with how I run things over there. And he kind of chuckles at thinking about maybe some of the more despotic stuff that he's done. But regardless, we get the job done.
I will make sure that the Eboneyes are there, as per paying back my debt, that is.
That's good. Who else is going to be there?
Like I said, there are 2 armies of about 700 surrounding the castle itself.
Dovod starts to chuckle. He's kind of like moving his fingers along the pommel of the long sword that's in front of him on the table. He goes, "No, who else is going to be there? Maybe you don't understand. I heard you. Who you talking to?"
Dovod, you know the way that I work. I don't discuss other transactions outside of my own. What happens here
Really?
between me and you is between me and you. What happens between me and that individual is between us.
Well, that's not going to work for me. You see, because you're talking about me to him.
Ah, that's what this is about. You see, Dovod, we do good business. I would not sell you out. His information that he was asking was not about you. It was about something that he did know already. Told him what I knew. I got some choice information out of it as well. Did you know that Convoker bases, though claimed to be built simply in strategic locations, are also built to cover up important things? I just got this confirmed. It's a choice piece of information. Something I've suspected for years. Now, the question is, what will I do with my information? What will he do with his? Dovod, don't get involved in this. There are things happening bigger than us up here in northern Aeronoth. If we're lucky, we'll be able to slip under the radar and avoid potential conflict with the larger parties working from the outside.
It's all true. Everything Osmond is saying is true. Dovod knows that. He looks down at the table, the books strewn all across it. He looks over at Osmond and he says, "Well, I think that's the difference between you and me. You see, I'm already waist deep in this shit. And I don't sell my friends out to protect my own skin. And I don't mind getting my hands a little dirty. You should try it sometime. You know, having a little backbone."
Dovod, my friend, you and I both know that once your little siege is done at KingsCrown, and once you have those Convokers with the Grey Wings, you'll step away and abandon them just as you abandoned your fellow people in Stone Rift. You see, you and I aren't so different. We just seek to preserve ourselves in different ways. You don't mind getting your hands dirty? I prefer to remain anonymous. It's not a matter of backbone. It's a matter of application.
Dovod would quickly come up out of his chair and draw the sword and place it towards Osmond and say, "If you ever talk about why I left Stone Rift again, I will open you up from that fucking little mouth of yours all the way down to your navel. Do you understand me?"
Pristinely.
I do the job I'm paid for. And he puts the sword back into its sheath. And he looks at Ithar and he says, "It's even worse than I remember." And he would just kind of walk over and let his heels cool a bit.
And you step away for a moment, and Osmond kind of gives you this pitying look. I mean, I don't think you see it. You're walking away, but I mean, Ithar notices. She gives him like a warning look, like, "You better not say anything. He's gonna kill you." We can do better than just show up to help you, Dovod. I already have members among the reclamation ranks. And he stands up and starts to walk past you, leaving. I've got quite the distance to travel. If you'll excuse me, I'll send that letter as well, requesting your aid. Just leave a note with one of the scribes, and I'll have it sent by tonight. And he looks back at you. I don't want to be your enemy, Dovod. You know this. We help each other. But just like you don't like me to bring up your past, don't bring up my present. And he starts to walk down out the door. If you don't say anything, I'll start by poisoning their water. That should at least take some of their number.
What he would see, I think, as he's getting ready to leave, he would just see Dovod nodding in agreement. He doesn't say anything, but he agrees. He also knows too that he needs Osmond. Osmond is too valuable a resource, and Osmond knows that. So
Yeah, he's fully aware that you can't get rid of him even if you wanted to. Because whereas you're brash and in people's faces, that only works so often. You need to have somebody who's quiet and in the shadows.
yeah, his network is yeah.
Yeah, people call him the spider for a reason. His web's all over Aeronoth, so he walks down the corridor leaving, and he kind of turns and looks back at you. You might find that book that I was reading of interest to you, by the way. Anyways, I'll see you at KingsCrown. And he steps onto the lift and starts to rise back up to the surface level.
So Davad would just, in his stubbornness, would not move from where he was standing, and he would stand there for a while. And I don't know if Ithar would go over and look at the book, but if she doesn't, maybe after a few very tense minutes, he would grudgingly walk over there. You know, almost like a child when they're a spoiled child when they're tantruming, and then they realize, well, okay, maybe I do want to look at that book. So yeah, he would make his way over there.
So you'd walk over, and the book is it's old, it's tattered, it's ratty. The papers look like they've been like cured though, and like well taken care of. So there's no smudging. I mean, it's very well like protected book on the inside at least. And as you open the cover back up, you see the title, and the title of the book is Shadows of the Ancients. and it says a guide to well, it's like a not a guide, it's like a study of pre-Kazarin Aeronoth.
He flips through a few of the pages, maybe just reading them, but he doesn't have time to read the whole book. And so he would like do like one of those things where he'd flip through, see if anything catches his eye. And maybe he would call Ithar over to, two sets of eyes are better than one.
Yeah, I think the first thing you'd notice as you're kind of like flipping through this book, is that you find a map. The map itself it has a bunch of like it has like a series of dots on it. There's 5 dots. All right, one of them is on where Viator should be. One of them is let me see, is in Keld, so far southern Aeronoth. One is in Krieg. One is in Snarholm, and one is in Talmoor.
Is there any kind of correlation between these dots on this map and where the Convokers are?
And I think that's what you notice to begin with, is that every single one of these dots is where a Convoker outpost is.
He would look at Ithar and say, "What do you know about this?"
I have no clue. I don't know what this is. I've never even heard of this book before.
I'm going to insight check her. I mean, I would probably typically trust Ithar with my life, but not something. He's just, he's going to see if she truly doesn't know or if she's still trying to keep some Convokers secrets.
Yeah, go ahead, roll me insight.
I trust her.
Yeah. Well, you trust her.
Yeah.
She does not know. She would kind of like look at it again. I'm like, wait, do you see that? It's kind of smudged. And she kind of like, there's like some lacquer sitting next to her, and she kind of like sprays it on the page and wipes to kind of get away the ink that's smudged. And there's one more dot on Stone Rift.
Well, that's interesting. How big is this book? Does it look like something we could take with us?
Yeah, you could definitely take it with you. I mean, she's got a pack. You could slip in the pack easy.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Okay. So she slides the book into her pack. I don't know what this means. Pre-Kazarin Aeronoth. I mean, that means we'd be dealing with the primordials, or, I mean, dragons back when the bleak was at its strongest. Yes.
He nods his head, but he doesn't want to agree with her out loud. But he nods. Well, I gotta write a letter. We gotta get moving.
Oh yeah. And she kind of reached into her bag, and she'd pull out like some loose slips of paper and some quill and some ink and set it down in front of you. Write what you need to. Take your time. We can go as soon as you finish.
Yeah. So Dovod's not a wordsmith. His note is going to be really short, and it's to Lex, and it's just there's not much pomp and circumstance in it. He's basically just, Lex, this is Dovod, and we spent our times fighting together. You getting my back, me getting yours. Well, I need you now. I know you took a beating down in, and I'm kind of paraphrasing his letter a bit, but Know you took a beating down in the south, but things are pretty bad up here too. You could find your way to come and give us a hand. And I keep on calling it King's Home because I'm playing in a Greyhawk campaign, and that's one of the villain towns there. But it's
King's
Crown.
Crown. King's
King's
Crown.
Crown. If you could come to King's Crown, I'd be truly indebted to you. And it's just signed Dovod.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, so you kind of wrap it up and fold it, put it in an envelope. And as you go to stand, you see where Osmond was sitting, there's also a letter. Well, it's not a letter, it's just like a note that's folded up. You're muted.
Dovod would, as he's kind of tucking his note into the envelope, he would kind of point to the scrap of paper so that Ithar would grab it.
Yeah, Ithar would pick it up, and she'd open it and kind of like scan it real quickly and then hand it over to you.
What's it say?
It says, Dovod, I could not say this out loud because I do not know who's listening. But there are apparently people with a network better than mine. Now, I'm sure you're going to accuse me of selling you out or something. I don't know if you're going to arrive in time to hear anything of my conversation with the previous person. But listen very closely. You are being watched, along with that group of Convokers you're traveling with. There are many people who are interested in your group for different reasons. But among them, the most dangerous is Ashen Virtue. The Black King has taken a specific interest in you and yours. In the information that the professor may or may not carry. And the way I hear it, one among them, among the group I mean, is an agent. That's right, one of your Convoker buddies. I don't know if you're friends, but one of them is a member of Ashen Virtue. I tell you this because I like to keep a good thing going. We've done good work together, and I don't want to see this end. But like I said, people are watching and people are listening. By the way, another fair bit of warning. You caused quite a ruckus on the road coming into town today. The Reclamation knows you're here. If you can, you'd best leave the city discreetly and soon, as they'll be searching for you. There's an Iridos merchant down at the bazaar. He sells the ostrides, those birds they ride to Iridos. His name is Save. Talk to him. He knows that you're coming. He's one of my agents. Just don't try and cheat him out of his coin too bad. Though he will give you a good deal. The night is always darkest when it's moonless. Remember that. Because it means something. It's not just a word and a phrase. Travel safely, friend. And I will see you at King's Crown.
Yeah. So reading the letter while is concerning to him, knowing that there's a spy traveling with the others. He's happy that that his friend Osmond is still the Osmond he knows, and he's thankful for the letter. And he folds it up and he tucks it behind his belt buckle. Um, it's something he'll destroy later. But he would turn to Ithar and say, "It seems we got to get out of here much quicker than we had even planned. It would also seem that there's a spy in that group." He shakes his head. He says, "Ithar, what shitstorm have you gotten me into?" And they would, I guess, start making their way to the elevator or the lift.
Yeah, and you'd walk over to the lift, and she'd put a hand on your shoulder. Well, nothing worse than what you've gotten me into, that I assure you, Dovod. And the lift slowly starts to make its way upwards, back up into the Arthenaeum, back up into the light, and into the books, and into the room above, the grand, huge, spacious room. And she looks over at you. Well, I guess we move swiftly then. Or as swiftly as your stumpy little dwarf legs can carry you.
We're natural sprinters, you know. And he chuckles, and he would try to find that same scribe that had brought him down to Dovod's, where Dovod was.
Yeah, you could look around and you'd find her.
Yeah, and he would hand her the letter,
Mm-hmm.
and he would say, "Dovod told me that you could get this sent by a raven."
She nods. Yes, Osmond is correct. I can send that for you.
It needs to get out tonight. And what did you say the town? It began with a B. I didn't write it down.
The town that she's in?
Yeah, that Lex was in.
She wasn't in a town yet. She's in Bardoth right now. Bardoth
Okay.
is a nation. It's an area.
Oh, okay.
So she's somewhere in Bardoth. Osmond will know where. He said he'll send it for you.
Okay. So that's
Okay.
what he would. That's what he would tell her.
She nods. Yes. I'll have him. I'll send that for you.
Thanks. And he doesn't know if it's customary or not. He's not really spent a lot of time. This is going to be a surprise, but he doesn't spend a lot of time in libraries or an anatharium. So he pulls out a couple of coins and gives them to her.
Yeah, she would kind of like look at them like confused. Thank you. And travel safely.
And he almost says "you too," but then he realizes that makes no sense, and he just kind of says "thanks." And I guess he would leave with Ithar.
As you turn to leave to go back out the doors that you came in, they burst open, and you see several squads of reclamation soldiers step into the room and start to scan. And that is where we're going to take another quick 5-minute break.
You bastard! I knew it. Okay, cool.
All right, be back in 5 minutes, and we'll finish from there. All right, let's finish this out. So the doors burst open.
Um, what would be the quickest way out of here that isn't where the doors just burst open? Because
Uh,
we're at this big set. Where are we in relation to where these guards burst into the doorway?
Okay, I muted myself somehow. So imagine this like this building is like this like a huge like perfect circle. And there, like I said, there are doors everywhere around it completely.
Right.
So if they're bursting in through the doors in the front, I mean, you can assume that there are probably people circling around on all sides. The best way to go would be in the opposite direction of them,
Right.
because there's doors just basically directly behind you. You guys are in the very center of the room because there's that like that
That's
shaft that
what I
goes straight down.
thought.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to quickly grab Ithar, and we are going to make our way, not run, not initially anyways, because I imagine there's other like uh researchers or whatnot within this main calming area. So excuse me, we're gonna make our way towards the back column and heading towards that door.
Yeah, I mean, there's other researchers kind of like milling about around you, kind of like pulling books off of shelves and like putting stuff back, whatever. So yeah, roll me performance to kind of just like act all nonchalant and make your way there.
Well, I got an 18.
Oh wow, okay. I mean, I thought I got a 16, so you guys look as calm as calm can be.
What were those things that were chasing us in the last session? Hell beasts or
Blood
something like that?
hunters.
Hell hunters. When you're chased by hell hunters, a few measly guards busting through a door is nothing. So yeah.
Yeah. That's when you hear the screams. No, just kidding.
Right.
No, so
you hear rending flesh.
yeah, screams and rending flesh, and that's when you know that the blood hunters are there, the hell hunters. They're coming
Yeah.
for you.
So that only lasts till probably we get out of this main like central room, and then we get into like the hallway that's I imagine lined with books on either side, and that's when we're gonna kind of break into a run towards the back door.
Okay. So once you reach the steps kind of leading up out of this pit of books in this library area, you guys like dash up the steps. Once you reach the top of the steps, the doors are just right there in front of you. You open them, breaking out into the street, and you see, as you suspected, kind of curling around the outsides of the buildings are more of these soldiers kind of making their way towards the Arthanum.
Yeah. So Dovod's going to quickly scan and look for the nearest alleyway, and that's where we're going to head.
Okay, yeah.
Down an alley.
Okay, yeah, you spot one. You spot one easily. Make me either. Yeah, make me like a. Let's do stealth. Let's do a stealth check.
All right. You're choosing all the abilities I have little points in, but okay. I still managed a 15.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Ithar got a 14, so we'll roll for the guards, and they don't see jack. They got a 2.
Whew, good.
Okay, yeah, you guys just dash away from this, kind of milling into the crowd, and then slipping into this alleyway as they surround the building.
So one of the things Dovod is also going to look for is any sort of like cloak or something, because one of the things that Dovod never does is he's very proud, so he never wears a cloak, never wears a hood. He always struts around. Now's not the time for that. So he's going to look for anything he could throw over his shoulders and maybe cover his head with.
Yeah, you see like a vendor, like a street vendor, and he's selling kind of this secondhand clothing.
And so he would walk up and say, "Sun is warm today."
Indeed it is.
But the nights are getting chillier. My last cloak, fortunately, it got so threadbare. No longer shielded me against the cold.
Oh, he picks up on this immediately. He's like, "Oh, I've got cloaks of all sizes. I've got big cloaks. I've got small cloaks. I've got woolen cloaks. I've got silk cloaks. Like whatever you need."
That one right there. How much for that one?
Is like a gray woolen cloak, like maybe Yeah, so like he kind of looks at it. I could sell it to you for 3 silver.
3 silver.
Oh, I could settle for 2.
That's what I thought. And he pulls out his main pouch, the one that the guard saw when he entered, and he drops out. There's 4 silver coins in there, and he picks out 2, and he hands them to the vendor.
Oh, might I say you look rather dashing in that cloak, sir.
You think so?
Yes, it brings out the red in your beard.
What do you think, dear?
She swats you because you called her dear.
He leans in close to the vendor and he says, I wear the pants. She just tells me which ones. And he gives him a wink, and he kind of throws the cloak over his shoulders, and they continue on down. What's the chances, Ty, that he can remember? Like I said, it's been several years since he's been to Greystone. What's the chances of him remembering the quickest way that isn't the gates that they came in? I mean, to get to the bazaar. That's where I want to go.
The main bazaar is right in that gate you first came in through. So you have to circle back around. Unless he was talking about one of the smaller ones, but you don't think so.
Yeah. And the other question, does Ithar have a cloak?
Yeah, she would put her hood up as you guys started to walk.
Yeah. Yep. So let's head back to that. We're gonna circle around. It's gonna take a little bit longer, but and make our way back to the bazaar and look for Osmond's contact.
Yeah, you guys circle around all the way around the outside of the Athenaeum. And I mean, the streets are abuzz right now. There are reclamation soldiers running to and fro. You see several of them running towards gates, several running towards the Athenaeum. They obviously still think you might be in there. So circling around is pretty easy. But you know that once they realize you're not there, it's going to be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, so definitely time is not our excuse me, our ally right now. But Ithar is capable, and Dovod knows that. So he's just going to, and she's faster than him. So he has no fears that she's going to be able to keep up with him. So he sets the pace as they move through. So they're moving through briskly, like maybe like
businessmen with a place to be, but not quite running. Yeah.
Like people with a place to be, but not someone that's running away from a guard. Like it's not like a chase scene from a movie. It's more just, we got a place to be and we're running a little behind. So we're walking a little bit quicker.
You mean a chase scene like the past 3 sessions have been?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you guys briskly make your way back to the southern end of town where you guys came in. And you step out onto the bazaar. You see that as you step out, a squad of guards of these soldiers run past you towards the gate, and you see them kind of like gathering around the gate. So if you want to get out of here on one of these ostrides, you're going to have to find another way out.
So what I'm thinking, and maybe we're kind of like just outside of where the vendors are. And so we're kind of tucked into like this little alleyway, and Dovod and Ithar are talking, and can they do that? So this is what Dovod thinks. He goes, "Hey, remember that time when..."
Her eyes immediately roll when you say "remember that time," because this isn't going to end well. She knows you're trying to suggest an idea right now.
No, not that time. Okay, maybe it was that time, but remember that time? And I don't unfortunately know Aeronoth well enough to rattle off the name of a town. But Dovod says the name of this little backwaters town from years ago. Remember that time when that Baron he thought I was sleeping with his daughter, and he sent his guard out to get us? Well, me. remember that distraction you made? And it allowed me to get away? I wonder if we should do something like that here, where we make a distraction, and that'll allow us to get away.
The way I recall it, you were with his daughter. And
Well,
what kind of distraction do you have in mind?
Ithar, now's not really the time to really live in the past.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I must have been mistaken.
And you'll notice he's still whispering, and he hasn't stopped whispering since.
Since the Athenum.
Yes.
Well, what kind of a distraction do you suggest?
So that's what I'm going to look for. And
Okay.
so he's looking around. What's closest to the gate that might afford a distraction?
Well, there's a pen filled with water bears.
Ooh.
In kind of near the gate. There's also what appears to be a tavern, kind of like just on the other side of the street. Like I said, you pass some blacksmiths and fleshers and stuff. There is kind of like an area that seems to be like the designated like beggar area. So there's like a group of beggars in an area over there. You see the Iridasi elf, the one that's selling that's selling the ostrides. He's kind of just beyond where you guys are. So
So this is what Dovod is going to propose to Ithar. All right. I don't know how much those birds are going to cost. And honestly, I don't want to ride one if I don't have to, but we really don't have an option. I think, and he looks at he looks at the group of beggars, and his idea, he goes, what I'd like to do is pay them to yell my name at the tavern.
you mean go in and just start shouting your name?
Yeah.
And Ithar kind of like gets this like look on her face, like, I could see that pulling away at least a small force of guards. I don't know about all of them though.
And are the gates? I imagine the gates are closed.
Yeah, they're closed. They're closed, and they've kind of got like a small contingent of guards, like kind of surrounding it.
Right. How close are buildings to the wall?
Maybe like I mean, you could see a taller building that kind of goes a little bit above the wall. That's maybe like, I mean, some of them like they're varying heights and distances. I mean, maybe on average, probably anywhere between 10 and 15 feet away from the wall.
Okay. So next plan that Dovod sees, as he's kind of telling her this plan, he sees, and it's right there before him. It's almost like stairs, the way these roofs line up. And he sees the last roof, and he's thinking, with the right amount of speed, I bet but he doesn't tell Ithar that's his plan, but that's what he's gonna do. He says,
So you're saying with the right amount of speed, and she's like looking at you like, no.
Oh yeah.
No.
Oh yeah. And
Dovod, we could die if we don't make the jump.
No. And he takes a couple steps away from her towards the gentleman selling what are the birds called?
Ostrides.
Ostrides. And he turns around and looks at her, and he gives her that smile, a smile probably she's seen countless times. And he goes, oh yeah. And he walks over to the ostrich vendor.
His name is
Seve. He goes, he says, I'm looking for the ostrich. And it's at this point that he realizes he's still whispering. And he goes, sorry, I'm looking for the ostrich vendor. And he said, Istray?
Ostride.
No, ostrich.
Oh, the guy's name?
Yeah.
Seve.
I'm sorry, you put it right in chat. Sorry, my bad. I'm looking for Seve.
Where you have found him? What is it that you need?
Well, the two of us were looking to purchase a couple of ostrides. And he kind of looks past him and he says, bit of a something to do, huh?
And he kind of looks down at you and sees the hints of the red beard kind of poking out from beneath. You will never learn, will you?
He goes, what? And then Dovod says that it's always dark on a moonless night.
But you can always see if there are stars. Yes. Okay. Good. You're supposed to do it right as you approach, so. He told me you were incompetent, but I did not think it was as bad as this.
Hey, I've never been good at following rules. Anyways, how much?
For you, I can sell for the 15 gold.
For two? And he holds up
Per.
And he reaches down into his crotch and he draws out this pouch and he goes, how about 13?
He also told me that you would try to make the deal. Fine. The 13 is fine.
And he drops the sweaty coin pouch into Save's hand. And he goes, deal.
He's like, I'm not even going to bother checking to see if the right amount of money is here.
He goes, all right, now which ones are the best jumpers? And Ithar, I imagine, is right there next to him as he's asking this.
Yeah, he's jumpers. Why would you need an ostrich to jump as they are for running?
I don't know. Better you don't ask the questions. Just point them out.
He looks at you, and then he looks at the gate, and then he looks back at the wall. Oh no, please no. These birds, they are more majestic than this. Oh. And he kind of turns and walks.
Just nodding his head silently.
He turns and walks into the pen, and brings back two of these huge ostrides. One is kind of like a jet black, and the other one is kind of like a dirty yellow. And he kind of brings them out and like puts them in front of you. These are the two best runners and jumpers that I have.
And he kind of smiles at him as he'll take the reins of the dirty yellow one, and he'd look at Ithar and say, black one's yours. It's your color. And wait a second, we probably got to buy saddles for these things, don't we?
They come with the saddle for the 13-fold.
Oh, good. Yeah. So he would mount up, and well, actually, no, he wouldn't mount up yet. He would just start guiding it. He would give Survey a curt nod, and he would start walking not towards the gate, but actually toward that building that he saw.
Yeah,
it had that. I imagine it's like a stack of. It's a low roof, and there's these stacks of like bales.
Yeah,
and.
I'm not going to say there's bales, man. It's too convenient. There's going to be a merchant table there that you have to step on to get up.
All right, that's cool. That'll work.
Okay. Yeah, so you start making your way over there, and Ithar looks at you. Dovod, maybe this isn't the best choice.
You heard him. These are the most majestic birds in all of Aranoth. Not only that, we have the two fastest runners and jumpers. Have a little faith. What could go wrong, Ithar? We could die.
Last time you asked me that, several of our friends did die.
And his mood would darken at that. Well, it's not going to be us today. And he mounts up on this ostrich. And he goes, we only live once. And there's too much at stake. And he would start riding.
And she'd like give like a little yelp of surprise as you take off. and she would quickly mount up on her. So I'm going to need you to make me an animal handling check.
15.
Okay. Yeah, you both got 15. So you handle the ostrides well as you step up onto the merchant table and then onto the roof. The merchant's like, hey, hey, hey. As you kind of like squash a couple like fruits and vegetables beneath your ostrich steps.
Dovod would just drop the other coin purse that he has. It only has like maybe 3 or 4 silver in it. He just drops it down on the table and says, sorry. And we're going to jump up onto the roof and we're going to start making our way across these roofs. And we're not going to stop until hopefully we leap over past this wall to the marshy area outside.
Okay, so you guys have control of your ostrides. I'm going to need you to, so you're going to have to jump across 3 roofs. So I'm going to need you to make me make a check of your choice, whatever skill you want to use that you can justify using in this situation. And make 3 different checks using 3 different skills.
Perfect.
It's going to go like this. Your first target number is an 11 because it's not as big a jump. Then it's going to go up to 14 and then up to 16. So those are your 3 target numbers.
I just rolled all 3. I'm going to use athletics. I'm going to use insight. And I'll tell you how I'm going to use each of them individually. And the last one would be persuasion, I think, just because that's probably the biggest jump.
Okay.
So I rolled an 11. Oh, no, actually, I rolled a 12 on the first one, a 15, and then an 18. So I'm going to make it.
Okay.
But I want to tell you how Dovod does this.
Okay.
So the first
and there's
one
one last jump, by the way, to jump the wall. So.
Oh, okay. So, okay, I don't know what skill that's going to be. It's probably going to be animal handling on the last one. Okay. But so he uses athletics first to just keep this thing in line, because if this ostrich is like, what are you doing? We're not made to run across rooftops, and it's trying to like go off the rooftop, and he uses that his athletics to kind of hold this thing with his legs, kind of guiding it, and then the insight is, as he's kind of following across this roof, he looks like, what is the best path? Not in a perception sort of way, but as in which one will afford the best landing for this ostrich. And so we make that jump. And the last one of the 3 would be persuasion. And that's just he kind of reaches down and he whispers, actually probably whispers up into towards this thing's head. And he goes, that's okay, girl. And he doesn't know if it's a boy or a girl, doesn't care. He goes, that's all right, girl. You got this. You got this all day. You're the most glorious ostrich. You are magnificent, and you are the fastest runner, and you are the best jumper. And
all right, you wooed it enough. You got it.
Well, he's laying it on thick because
it believes it now. It believes that it is a beautiful bird now.
Right on.
You see it like flap its feathers and just and make the last jump, and now you're on the top of the roof. Ithar made all 3 of hers too. Right. So she kind of comes like running up behind you. You hear the footsteps behind you. You know you can't stop. You have to jump right now. Yeah. This last check, roll with advantage because you succeeded on all 3. Right. And you've given your ostrich a moral boost.
A 13 and a 19, so I have a 21 all up with my animal handling.
And you make it.
Make this. No, we don't just make it, Ty.
You detail it to me, sir. Tell me.
So what it's like that. If it was a movie, it'd be that slow motion scene, like we're running up, and you just hear Dovod say, "We got this. We got this." He looks back and he yells to Ithar. He goes, "We got this." But the look on his face is like he's trying to convince himself that he's got this. And then as this ostrich leaps, and it's like the slow-mo scene as it leaps from the roof, cresting over the wall, and you just hear, "Oh shit!" And we make it over, and it's like
Uh, you hear as you jump the wall and you land and like kind of like step through the mud real quick. You hear as Ithar jumps, "Damn you!"
Yes, yes.
And then the ostrich lands next to you, stumbles a little bit, but then keeps going, and you guys
Yeah.
are off. You hear shouts from the town behind you, and you see kind of this like the people like as you crest to the wall, the people who are walking the walkway just along the interior of it like duck and like get down. Look, oh, and they start shouting after you, and they start firing arrows.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give them like 5 shots, and we'll see if they hit it all.
Okay.
Miss, hit, nat fail, not one. So one of them, his bow breaks in his hand and like whips backwards, and he falls off the walkway. One of them is gonna pin you with his longbow for 9 points of damage, and then Ithar is missed by everything. You hear shouting, "Open the gate!"
Dovod doesn't even acknowledge that the arrow is sticking in his. I'll say it's in his shoulder, just above where his shield is resting across his back. And maybe it's like well after they start to slow down when Ithar points it out to him. You have a fool, kind of you have an arrow sticking out of your back, you fool, or something like that. Because I imagine she has a few choice words to say to Dovod when things kind of settle down.
yeah. But so you guys are running, and you hear shouting to open the gate. Do you look back at all?
I don't think Dovod does, because he would see the arrow. I think he's just leaning over the neck of this ostrich, and they're just cruising. I don't know if Ithar looks back at all.
Oh, well, she does. And you'd hear, "Oh, damn. Ride faster!" And you see her like snapping the reins. She pulls that ring out of her braid as she's riding and puts it on her finger, and you hear her talking.
And as she kind of like pulls up, kind of even with Dovod as they're kind of shooting across this marshy plain, he goes, "What is it?"
And she would just slowly turn and look at you. Hill Giant Charger. Among the Hill Giants, there are those who are trained specifically to run long distances nonstop until their heart gives out, essentially, if that's what happens. Not only are they fast because of their long strides, but they're dangerous because they're almost mindless to their own pain. The fact that they have one of these, that they're sicking on you, you're not going to outrun it. Your best hope is finding somewhere where you have the advantage in fighting it.
Yeah. So knowing that, one of the things that Dovod would be looking for is a place where its size would not be as much of an advantage, like something that would be like close quarter or something of that nature, where he and Ithar could I don't know, attack it, maybe flank it in some fashion. So I'd be looking for like some place where I know we're on a plain right now, so we would probably cut towards the tree line, and maybe look for like maybe some hills.
Okay.
Slight hills, nothing big.
Roll me a history check for this region to see if you know somewhere that would be suitable for this.
Like I said, the last time Dovod was here, he was his mind was a little muddled by drink, so he cannot remember a place that they could go.
Roll me a luck die then.
Okay. Now, which die is that?
That's a D8.
D8. That's what I thought. I got an 8.
That is as lucky as you can be.
Oh, good.
So you're like, oh, I don't know where we could face this thing. And then as you guys crest over the top of a hill, you see the Tower of Tandal. This old, crumbled watchtower that still stands partially. It definitely is like 5 or 6 good hits from falling over, but it might be the best thing you can find on this open plain.
Right. That's what we're going to head for.
Okay.
And
sorry, go ahead.
And I'm going to call my ostride. My ostride's name is going to be Lemon. Actually going to be Lemon Cake. But that's only if I survive.
Okay. Pastry.
So
you got to keep it the pastry.
I'm going to drive Lemon Cake towards this tower. And I'm going to point, and Dovod is going to point to it. So Ithar sees it as well, which she probably does.
Yeah, she sees it as you point to it. Well, I guess it's better than nothing. And she kind of like on the reins, and then hers like leans in and starts running faster. Okay. You guys, as you kind of start running up this hill towards this tower, you would glance over your shoulder, and you see coming over. You know, hill giants are generally like these fat, like doofish type of creatures. Like they're not very intelligent. But the thing that's cresting over this hill, it has the same kind of brownish normal skin of a hill giant, kind of the same balding, lumpy head and arms. But there's a muscular physique to this thing. And it's running recklessly, its mouth swinging side to side. You see bits and flecks of drool like slapping out of its thing's mouth. And in one of its hands, it's carrying what appears to be some sort of like maybe like a makeshift cudgel of some sort, except for it's made from the bone of some large creature. Maybe it got it from the south in Gwynterod, among the Shade Vale, those giant mammoth bones they have there. Maybe it got it there. You don't know, but it's huge, and it's running recklessly towards you. This is club swinging back and forth, occasionally hitting it in its own leg or its shoulder, but it doesn't even feel it. And as you make it into the tower, and you put the ostrides kind of off to the corner away, hoping to maybe keep them safe, because you can't double up on an ostride. It's not a horse. The thumping footsteps, and there's kind of a crumbled stairway that goes up the tower to different floors. You can see holes in the floors above you too. I mean, this thing is like it's more like a cobweb, like a derelict warehouse more than anything. Like it's held together simply by the force of all the stuff pushing inward. And so, I mean, you see that maybe there's 3 floors you can go up to. And the pounding footsteps come running up the hill, and then they stop.
Yeah, Dovod's going to start going up the stairs to one of the other upper floors. Hopefully, there's a window. I imagine there's a window at least on every floor.
Yeah, there's a window on every floor, or at least a section where the stuff's been ripped out.
Yeah, the wall is falling out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what he's going to do, and I don't know what Ithar's doing, but he's going to see if he can get a bead on where this giant is.
Yeah, you see kind of through the cracked stonework of the tower, like a shadow kind of circling the tower itself. You hear heavy breathing. You hear the dragging cudgel across the ground. For the purposes of this combat, I'm rolling 2d4 to determine how many rounds until the rest of the army gets here.
Yeah.
You guys have 7 rounds until the rest of the army arrives.
Perfect. We'll be dead long before then, Ty. Don't worry. What I'd like to do is, or what Dovod would like to do is, once he gets up to like maybe the 2nd or 3rd floor, he's going to wait. If with your permission, he stops on that floor because that's where a bit of the wall has fallen out, and what he's waiting for. He's kind of crouched. He's got the long sword in one hand, his wooden shield in the other. And the minute that giant walks across that opening, he is going to run and leap onto this thing and just start hacking it.
Roll me stealth.
Okay. Stealth. Okay. Dovod is not stealthy. As he's going up there, some stone crumbles and I got an 8.
Okay. Okay. So you're waiting there, crouched, waiting, breathing slowly. The shadow circles and stops right before the opening. You hear, and then you hear, roar, and a hand slams through the wall next to you. It's going to get 1 free hit on you because it passes perception check to hear or smell you.
Okay.
Does a 16 hit you?
It hits my shield.
Do you have a... Oh, wait. What's your AC?
It's 15 without the shield. It's 17 with the shield.
Okay. This fist comes flying. You hear... I mean, I almost imagine you hear the whistle. And then this fist comes through the side of the wall, just rock and chunks spraying everywhere around you. You barely get your fist up and your shield up in time, and it knocks you backward against the other wall on the opposite side. Its hand like grabbing around inside of the tower for you. Roll initiative. Combat is now beginning.
Awesome. $17.
Okay, you're going first. So go ahead.
So you could say yay or nay to this, but so this giant arm is in there. I'm going to try to drive my Dovod's going to try to drive his sword into the arm and try to find. And I mean, no, I'm not going to kill him in one shot, but he's just trying to hit like a vital point on this giant.
Yeah, go ahead and give me an attack.
Oh wait. First, he starts to seethe, and he says, "No!" And this is what Dovod does. I was thinking about this the other day. So, what gets Dovod into a rage is the images of every one of his friends and companions that he lost kind of rolls through his mind, and he thinks of their deaths, and that just gets him fired up, and that's what he's doing now. And the last image that he sees is that little boy that was on that road. It's not his father. It wasn't his mother. It's that little boy. The sense of hope that boy had, and knowing that it was fruitless. And I'm going to use my inspiration. Yes, I'm glad I did. I got an 18 plus 5, 23.
That definitely hits.
Okay, and that's going to be 8 points of slashing damage as he just brings this longsword down on this giant's arm.
Yeah, the giant kind of grunts against the pain, but it doesn't seem to even notice. Like, these things are trained to just push past all of their limits. And so its hand, like, it like grunts, and you see its hand move away from you, and then it starts to grab around again. So it's going to make 3 attacks against 3 random targets. So I'll roll a d4. 1 is you, 2 is Ithar, 3 is the tower, and 4 is just a swipe that'll hit something random. Okay, 3, the tower. Okay, with a sweeping motion, it tears the rest of that wall out, and you see it kind of like, it's a little bit taller than the floor you're on, and it leans down. You see its face looking at you. It's like straight up Attack on Titan stuff going on right now. Okay, and it's going to next attack. 1, it's going to attack you. That is definitely going to hit. That's like a 25. And you're raging, so you'll only take half of this, right? Okay. Lucky for you that you're raging. So instead of taking 18 points, you take 9. As just with like a slap, it basically like... I almost imagine you still have your sword out, so it jabs into this thing's palm, but it just slaps you against the wall.
Yeah, it's just Dovod just like gets rolled and against the wall. Yeah.
Okay, and then 2, so it's going to attack Ithar with this last attack. Ithar is kind of like standing ready with her greatsword, and it's going to. I'm gonna have it try and grab her. Ooh, that is a good roll for it. But Ithar rolled better. Okay, so she nimbly kind of dodges to the side as its hand like grabs for her, and it's now her turn. So she's going to attack this thing twice. That's going to hit. And that is going to miss. So her first attack hits. 6 + 4, 10. She steps up and brings her greatsword down on this thing's hand, severing straight through a finger. One of its fingers just pops off, just onto the ground. It doesn't even notice. The fingers just bleeding. And it's just like grabbing for her still, trying to close its hand around her. You see in its eyes like a madness, it's lost to its own angry carnal nature. Like it's more of an animal than it is any sort of humane thing now. It is your turn.
Perfect. Well, there's only one thing that can be done, and that's to run and leap at it and try to drive the longsword into it. He's gonna go for the face. You said the face was close to the wall.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Gonna leap out at it. Let me see. That is a 21.
So you're just attacking its face. You're trying to jump onto it.
Both. I would like to jump onto it.
Okay,
does it have like a beard or anything?
No,
or no?
it's like there's a complete lack of hair.
Okay. So it's bald. Doesn't have any armor on.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got a loincloth.
Yeah. No. Let me see. How many floors up am I?
You're on the 3rd floor. If you fall, you're gonna fall 30 feet.
Yeah, I don't want to fall 30 feet. So no, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to, as its arm comes in, he's kind of shaking off, getting slammed by that last strike. But he's just going to try to hit that same spot again. He's looking for, it doesn't matter how tough something is. If you can hit an artery, Dovod knows it's going to bleed out. So that's where he hits, and for 11 slashing damage.
Yeah, this thing just grunts and kind of like falls away from you, kind of like holding its face. Obviously, there's still some sort of feeling here. It still has to be able to think a little bit. So, I mean, I almost imagine you gash the side of this thing's mouth open, so its jaw's kind of hanging a little bit. Yeah, so it's screaming in pain and anger now, kind of stumbling away from you, holding its jaw. Anything else?
No, he's not doing anything else. He's sitting tight. Just kind of.
Okay, let's see what it does on its turn. Okay, interesting. So it's going to attack you. It's going to attack Ithar. It's going to attack the tower again. It attacks every single target within reach. You, it misses. Ithar, it misses. Oh, man. And in nat 20's the tower. You see it kind of like falling away from you, and then it kind of is, it's holding its jaw, and then it's the kind of like it's covering its eyes a little bit. It just recklessly swings, and it knocks out the floor beneath you. The floor, so the tower, the floor you're on is now difficult terrain. And I'm going to need you to make me a dexterity saving throw at the beginning of every single one of your turns as long as you're on the 3rd floor. Okay. So that you see the floor and the wall beneath you, kind of like, so you know how it's like a tube? Like basically a cylinder? Like half of the cylinder, the wall beneath you is just ripped out. So the floor is like tilting now.
Awesome.
Okay, so to Ithar. Ithar's going to make a dex save, which she succeeds on. She kind of like stumbles forward a bit, but catches herself. And she reaches down to her side and pulls out two hand axes. And she's going to throw them both at this creature. One of which hit, one of which nat 1s.
Ooh.
So she hits it for 7 points of damage as this hand axe buries itself in this thing's like upper arm. Kind of, you see it like cut deep in, like hooking in with the blade first. And then with the nat 1, as she goes to throw the next one, the tower shifts and she slides forward. And I'm going to have her make another dex save and manages to catch the edge of the stone floor. And she's hanging in there now.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay, your turn. Dex save.
Yeah, I pre-rolled that. I got a 16 on the die plus 1, 17. I don't know if that's
Okay, yeah, you're good. You're good.
okay. Ithar's just Ithar. Jeez, I do that all the time. Dovod is just in a rage, so he's got like tunnel vision, and he just attacks this thing again. And see, that is going to be another 21 for another 8 points of slashing damage. And he just growls at this giant, like almost feral.
I almost imagine this is like Pirates of the Caribbean, where like Jack Sparrow like meets the Kraken as it's like eating the ship. Like this thing's like leaning in right now. Or have you played Dark Souls?
I've only played the first one.
Okay, well the first one, you know the giant lava monster thing that's on the edge of the on the edge of like the place where you fight it, like you have to like cut its hand and stuff. It's totally like that. That's what I'm feeling right now.
Nice.
Okay.
Good.
So it's kind of leaning in. You cut it again.
Well, hopefully this giant meets the same fate that the lava monster did for me.
Yeah, well, we'll see. It grunts and just screams again in pain. It's bleeding out of several cuts in its face. You see, you cut at one of its eyelids now as you cut down this time, and it's bleeding down across its eye. It doesn't blink though. And so let's see what it does on its turn. Okay, 3 attacks against 1 target within its reach. Okay. It is going to attack you 3 times, Dovod. Hit, miss, nat 1. Okay.
Oh,
so the first one's going to slam into you. It's actually going to bite you. Okay. So it's actually going to bite you with this attack. 9, 11, plus 5. So it would have been 16. Instead, it's 8. Its teeth kind of like these rotting teeth in its mouth kind of clamp down on your arm as you're swinging at it and just dig deep. It rips a chunk out of your arm, and it comes away and spits the chunk on the ground. And then as it leans back to punch you again, it nat 1s and falls prone against the tower. So I'm gonna have the tower make a luck die roll. Okay. As it falls, it catches itself on the tower and its foot slams into the bottom floor. The tower is now tipping even more. Your dex save is going to be harder this turn.
Oh, shit.
Okay, Ithar. She is going to... Okay, cool. Good. So she swings and jumps onto the second floor. So she's now cutting at this thing's stomach while you're cutting at its head and arms. So she's going to make 2 attacks on this with her greatsword. Ithar. Okay. Well, she missed both attacks. So she's going to action surge. And I'm going to have one of those be a trip attack. So both hit. Strength save for the giant. Plus 5. Which it fails.
Oh, nice.
And so she's going to do 5 plus 4, 9. She does 21 points of damage to this thing, and she jumps off with the nat 1. She kind of jumps forward off of the second floor, falling 20 feet, and just hamstrings this thing across the back of its leg with her greatsword. So this thing's leg just buckles, and it falls all the way down to the ground, and it is prone now.
Perfect. So this is what I'm thinking. It'll be Dovod's turn now.
Yeah, dex save by the way again.
So this is what I'm thinking, and you could say no to this. I'm thinking I want to fail my dex save.
Okay.
But fail the dex save. So I'll auto fail the dex save. But what it is because I just slide right down off this floor out. And what I'd like to do is try to see if I can fall onto this giant and strike it.
Yeah, if you gave yourself a little jump as you kind of went off the edge, you could definitely reach this thing.
Okay.
So, well, in that case, make me a athletics check to make the jump.
Yeah, 20.
Okay, so you're going to be able to jump to this thing easy. So I'm going to make me an attack with advantage since it's prone.
23.
Okay, so you're going to hit. You're going to take 3d6 falling. It's going to take the 3d6 falling from you landing on top of it. And I want you to add one more damage die of whatever weapon you're using. So you're going to roll 2d8 for the longsword instead of 1d8. Are you rolling your own falling damage, or do you want me to roll it for you?
No, you can roll it for me.
Okay. So you take 12 falling damage, but I guess that's halved.
Okay. And I'm going
from your raging. And it'll take the full 12, though.
And I'm going to do 18 slashing.
So 30 total to this thing. Ouch. You don't quite kill it. It's really hurt, though. What does this look like? Explain to me this jump and this damage, and take a point of inspiration also for cool.
So one thing, it's not graceful at all. Everything that the Ostride had in grace when it made its leap, Dovod doesn't have that. He slides, and it's one of those things where he doesn't intend to slide. He's like kind of kicking his legs, trying to get some footing, because he sees himself sliding down to this opening towards this giant. And once he realizes he ain't stopping himself, he kind of hits the edge, and he just kind of leaps off, and it's kind of this cartwheeling arm thing. And it's only then that he, like, you know, kind of gets the focus again, and he just brings the sword down and just drives it deep into this thing's what would normally be a fat, rotund belly of a hill giant. It's not, and he just cuts into the skin and the muscle and just kind of rakes it down him. Kind of like if you think of I don't know, that old pirate movie with Errol Flynn where he sticks the knife into the sail and slides down it. That's kind of what Dovod does, and that's where he ends his turn.
That's sweet, man. Yeah, take that point of inspiration. By the way, that was round number 6. Oh, this is round number 6. So you can see over the hill the approaching army. So it is the giant's turn, and it rolled, and it is going to make 3 attacks against 3 random targets. So let's roll the d4 again. Okay, you, Ithar. Okay. So here's your 2 attacks. Now, I got a nat 20. And the other attack misses, though. So this is going to hurt. So instead of taking the normal 36 damage, you take 18. Oh, and then a nat 20 is Ithar too. Okay.
Well, so Dovod's still up, but he doesn't look very good. But he's barely up.
Yeah, Ithar's going to take one of these hits also. So she nat 20'd against her also. And it's rolling a lot better already against her too. She takes 40 points of damage. So it starts like thrashing about. One of its fists kind of try to grab you, and you're able to like kind of bring your shield up and knock it out of the way. But then as you knock it out of the way, you're left exposed. And its other fist kind of just comes up and just boom, just hits you right in the front, like right in your chest. It sends you flying backwards.
Into my belt buckle?
Yeah, in the belt, your belt buckle crumples. It sends you flying backwards, and that hole that it kicked in the side of the building, you go through that hole and land with the Ostrides inside. Yeah. And then you see from your prone position on the ground, lying there. You look up and you see it stand to its feet, and kick Ithar. And you see her. She doesn't make it through the hole. She hits the wall next to it and then comes through. So she takes 40 points of damage. She's gonna second wind because she's barely standing still.
Thankfully, she's still standing.
She's gonna run out and attack this thing twice and miss both times. Yeah, she's not looking good at all. She's hurting. Your turn, Dovod.
All right. Dovod, as like a free action, is going to yell to her, "Get the Ostrides!" And he is just like bleeding. He's got like a piece of his arm chewed off. He's just bleeding from every place that you could possibly bleed from, just from from being slammed. Gets up and runs at this thing, and he's gonna attack it recklessly. Just because I want that extra die. Yeah, so that's a 17, 22. That'll hit.
Okay.
Um,
Doing that damage.
Yes. 13 points of slashing damage.
It had 12 hit points. How do you kill it?
I know how he kills it. Dovod does not. So it just like it kicks poor Ithar through this wall, and I don't know how she stays up, and not only that, but it tries to attack it. But then he runs forward, and as it's like kind of bringing its leg back, he just kind of runs and just drives his longsword right up into this thing's Jimmy section, and drives it in. There's kind of this from this giant as he rips it out, and blood and viscera just explodes out onto Dovod as he staggers back. And hopefully Ithar is grabbing those dang ostrides so we can get out of here, because I'm gonna die.
Yeah, the hill giant kind of like and like steps backwards and steps again, and then collapses, like kind of falling to one knee and then to the side onto the ground. You guys grab the ostrides and start making your way towards the exit of the building again. You're both limping, like dead. Like you guys are on the verge of death. And as you reach the entrance you guys came in through, you see the army is like right on top of you. It's right there. And Ithar kind of like looks at you and looks at the army and kind of like holds the greatsword. Like you guys can't get the ostrides running in time. I want you to roll me a perception check.
Ty, perception has not been my friend this whole session, and it continues to be consistent. I rolled a 3.
Okay. Well, the hopelessness before you, I mean, you're going to get overwhelmed. There's no way you're going to live.
I have one hit point.
Yeah, she's got 13. She like looks at you and you look at her and you guys both like shoulder your weapons like ready. And she looks down at her ring in surprise and looks over at you with wide eyes. And at that moment, you hear a griffin screech. And from above, out of the clouds, you see like 50 or 60 griffins come pouring out of the sky. And on the backs of the ones in the front, there's like 3 lines of about 20. On the ones in the front, you see them kind of lift their hands and point them. And a wave of fire goes across the entire army as the front row casts burning hands. The army kind of like loses it at this point, and they like kind of like fall into rank. They're trying to like get set up. Several of the giants start unwinding these massive iron chains from around their backs and start swinging them around with a humming sound. You see the barbs along the chain flicking out. But the griffins kind of swoop around and go back up, and then come back around, and this time the back row is standing with longbows and unloads like an array of longbows into them. 2 griffins land next to you. One being Ithar's, which she like approaches quickly and puts a hand on its side of its head, and then the other one is bearing another rider, and he looks at you. Come on.
Through like bloodshot eyes, Dovod staggers to the rider. It's like everything's kind of, it's like, you know, when an explosion goes off and it's like in a movie and someone's like,
yeah, the sound.
Yeah, that's what Dovod is seeing right now. And he kind of hears, you know, and he's kind of like, and he kind of makes his way over to this guy. He's just covered with blood, his own and the giant's. And I'm assuming this guy helps him up. And then he turns towards the ostrides and he goes, "Go, lemon cake. Be free." And that's probably the last thing he remembers before like darkness takes him and he just like passes out.
Yeah, the Convoker who you're riding with looks at you like, the hell? And then these ostriches just like take off running. And the two griffins lift into the air. I imagine you get a brief sensation of like going off the ground before you pass out, and it becomes too much for you.
Yeah.
And you're sitting in front of this guy, which usually I bet you doubt you would not allow yourself to do. But considering the situation, you don't care about any showing weakness or anything. And you guys take off. And the last thing you see is this contingent of griffins turning and leaving the army below in disarray. And kind of going back up into the clouds. When you eventually come to, you're lying on a stone floor. Ithar's hunched over you. She's holding an empty bottle. She poured a health potion in your mouth. And she's looking better too. She obviously got some healing. So go ahead and take 4d4 plus 4. So go ahead and take 14 points of healing from this greater health potion. And she looks down at you. Well, that was a close one, wasn't it?
You mean we're still alive?
Oh, Dovod.
He smiles at her, and as he does, she notices that he's missing like 2 teeth on the upper part of his gum line. He's missing the 2 teeth up here.
Oh, Dovod. You're a piece of work. That's all I can say. Good jump, though. You got some good distance.
Told you we'd make it. Oh, God. Now every pain and ache from that battle he feels it. Now that the rage has long since subsided. I mean, he's just like, I imagine he's almost bruised from head to toe.
Well, you look about how I feel, so probably pretty damn bad. But, well, there's someone you need to talk to. You know, explain the situation. We had to get you up as soon as possible. I assumed that time, well, was of the essence, really. And she would kind of help you to your feet, kind of offering you like an arm for support or something.
Yeah, typically Dovod would not accept that, but in this circumstance, he does warmly.
Yeah, and she leads you from this. It looks like some sort of an antechamber to a castle, back into like a large meeting room is what it looks like. There's kind of a long table set in the center, fires burning, sconces in all the corners. Very homey. But she leads you into this room, and sitting at the end of the table is a large, stocky halfling. I mean, not halfling, tiefling. He kind of looks up at you, and you see that there's a kind of an eye patch over one of his eyes. And one of his horns is kind of chipped and broken. And you immediately know who this is. It's Dylrand of Cardun. This tiefling, the supposed leader, if there was a leader of the Grey Wings, the most listened to, at least, among them. And you know that he is the superior, definitely, of Ithar. But there's a very loose command structure among Grey Wings. Dovod. A pleasure to finally meet you. Sit, please.
Dovod gingerly sits down. Normally he would stand up in a situation like this, but sitting seems really appealing to him. And he's like,
well, get the man some food. And several of the Grey Wings run off, and they come back with, I mean, it's simple food. It's like a loaf of bread and some stew, and like a little bit of wine. Nothing special, but enough to get you back on your feet type thing.
Yeah.
The way Ithar tells me, you're in need of our assistance.
That's kind of an understatement. Kind of in a bad way.
Yeah. We've seen the armies camped outside KingsCrown. Regardless of what you might think, there is a certain interest in you and yours. Your band has done good things. We've even considered recruiting you, but we thought you too stubborn to accept.
He kind of nods to that.
Figured as much. Now tell me what the situation is. Why are they attacking your fort?
Dovod would look over. I mean, his eyes are kind of like bleary still. They're just like all bloodshot just from the getting smacked around by that hill giant. He looks to Ithar. Have you shown him the book?
She nods.
And then he would look at you said Dalrin?
Dalrand, yeah.
Dalrand.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. He looks at Dalrand and he says, well, I don't know what it means, but it's one of those points. It's got to mean something.
Indeed. What are they after, though? Why are they chasing you? The way we have it on the word of good men, they've chased you since Ravenport. Heck, they've chased you since Glasspool.
He kind of shrugs. I have a way of making friends. And he smiles and he kind of winces a bit because it hurts. And he would look to Ithar kind of without saying it, but sort of, what have you already told him?
And she kind of just gives you this look like quite a bit. Like basically she trusts him like a lot. Like, I mean, if the Grey Wings had a commandant, like somebody in charge of them all, like it would be him.
Right.
He's not commandant in word only, but he's respected from his authority.
Right. Well, Dovod's not doing that then because he doesn't trust this guy. It's just he doesn't want to just repeat what he's probably already been told by Ithar. So I'm going to assume that Ithar would have told him about the initiates that were traveling, that he was smuggling, that there's a spy among them, and that there's a very important package that this professor is carrying. But none of us seem to know what it is.
Yeah, okay. So you'd be pretty safe in assuming all that stuff.
Yeah.
He would mention the package shortly after that, like if you were giving like a bit of an explanation of things that he might not know yet. He'd look at you and say, yeah, we've heard about the package. About whatever Professor Emran's carrying. He's a good man. For Convoker, at least. They're cowards, as Convokers, all of them. Fools, too. Too careful to save their own hides when they should be saving others. But Dovod, listen to me. I know you're a man that likes to work alone. Set his own goals and all that. But the world's changing. You kind of stand up and look at you. And he'd pull the sword out of its sheath at his waist. You see that the blade is made of a black metal that seems to consume the light around it, almost like a void. I want you to roll me a history check at advantage, because you would probably most definitely know what this is. Any warrior would know what this is.
I rolled 2 19s.
This is one of the Oathsworn blades of the last Imperium. One of the weapons used to govern the entirety of Kazran. Weapons respected and forged with such power that they were feared for the strength that they held. And he takes the blade and he holds it. If you will have us, Dovod, we would be your allies in the days to come. If you will trust us, not as who we were as Convokers, but who we are now as Grey Wings.
And Dovod would say, I have no love for the Convokers. But I trust Ithar. And if she trusts you, and he smiles, and again he winces again, forgetting that his mouth is ruined, and he looks at Ithar, and he says, if she trusts you, then I do. And I'm kind of short on friends right now. So, yeah.
And he looks at you, then Dovod. As close to him as I may be as a leader of the Grey Wings, I make this oath to you. As you stand by us, we stand by you. And he takes the black sword and he cuts across his arm. And you see that the wound glows and then seals, leaving a deep cut in his arm. Something that'll never heal, a deep, deep scar. He says, this is my sign to you of our friendship, for we need allies too. And he would walk towards you, and he'd reach into a pouch around his neck, and he'd pull out a ring, a black ring, and set it on the table in front of you. You can use this to contact any one of us at any time, anywhere, over the surface of this world. And if we are available, we will come to aid you. Now rest and eat. For in several hours we must fly out to aid yours at KingsCrown. And he puts a hand on your shoulder and looks down at you, and I guess you wince probably. And he kind of takes the hand back off. We trust you, Dovod. Now please trust us.
And they would probably lock eyes. And he would like search into this tiefling's eyes, and he would nod. I do. Damn. You guys flew in like that? I never thought I'd be so happy to see one of you. And he's just about to say something derogatory, and he stops himself. He goes, one of you beautiful, beautiful flyboys. And he would scoop the ring off of the table and slip it onto one of his fingers.
So what this ring basically allows you to do is, instead of like giving you the booming voice of a normal Convoker ring, and the AC, because it doesn't give that anymore, what it does is it allows you to communicate with anyone else wearing a dark Convoker ring on the surface of the world. And it comes as a whisper instead of a shout.
Okay, cool.
And he nods to you, and he extends a hand. Allies, then.
Allies. And he would take the hand.
Good.
And he would be standing when he did that too. He wouldn't sit as he shook this man's hand.
Yeah, and he'd say, now eat and rest quickly. We have people that need your help and our help. And he would turn and he'd walk away from you to leave the room. And he'd call Ithar to come with him, and several other of the Grey Wings would follow as well, leaving you in the room with like 3 or 4 Grey Wings who would get you whatever you needed and are basically just making sure that you're okay. And if you have anything else you want to do, that is where we'll end the session. I think you're muted.
My bad. No, I think once he leaves the room, Dovod would kind of collapse back into that seat, and he'd be like, he'd look at Ithar and say, overall, pretty damn productive day. And he would start laughing, and that would be probably a cutscene.
Yeah, she just like is shaking her head at you as you're
Yeah,
laughing, and I bet like
that's
little bits of dried blood are like flecking off of your lips onto the table, and
yeah,
she's just
exactly.
like,
All in his beard.
yeah, she's just like, ugh. And that's what we're in the session then.
Cool. Awesome. It was great.
All right, man. Oh, last thoughts.
This was my first ever one-on-one game ever. It was fun. I had no idea what was in store for us, but I loved every minute of it. I don't know if you meant to have there to be like a sense of tension, but I definitely had a sense of tension all the way through. I felt that I had to play Dovod outside of his normal character. Like normally he would have just jumped on those 5 guys in the Hill Giant and beat them, but there's no way they would have won that fight. So I didn't like that kind of moral dilemma you give me right at the very beginning of the session, and that kind of ate at the VOD all the way through.
Yeah.
And then the fact that he was probably going to be feel that he's going to be betrayed by Osman was just another nice layer to that. But it was really good. I loved it all the way through. I liked the fight at the end. That was tough. Thank God for 1 hit point.
Yeah, dude. Freaking Hill Giant Charger, man. If it had gotten another turn, dude, it would have.
It would have been done.
Yeah, dude, it would have messed you guys up.
Yeah, yeah. Thank God for rage and you missing a few times.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was a fun session. I'm looking forward to the next one when we join the other guys.
Yep, back at KingsCrown. Back to the siege. Oh man, dude, I'm excited. It's gonna be fun. As always, dude, thanks for playing, man. You're a fantastic role player. Dude, you are just really good at playing a character. That's all I can say, man. Always a pleasure to have you on the channel. Always a pleasure to play in the game with you. And you're right. This is my first one-on-one too. I've never played a one-on-one before.
Yeah, I've done some 2-offs with players. Those go really well. But the one-on-one was nice.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I liked it though. Anyways, but yeah, thanks for playing. Thank you anyone who tunes in and watches this. I will be posting this after Session 7 happens, the Siege of KingsCrown. And you guys will figure out what happened while Dovod and Ithar were away from the party before they get back and kick Sebastian's butt for separating them.
Yes, that's a whole different side arc.
Yeah, there's gonna be some emotional trauma. It's gonna be like a good old soap opera.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways, thanks for playing.
Really fun.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks everyone for tuning in. As always, I hope you guys find yourselves in your games on a roll.